Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
And you're going to be really pleased you turned on this evening because we're doing something a little bit different. This is a show I think will give you peace of mind. I bet there's something you know you should have done. There's something you should have written, which is a will, and you've never gotten around to it. We have got, I think, the simplest way to do a will, and we've got one of the most affordable ways as well.
And we're working alongside a specialist company tonight. Simpler Law join us here on Shop on TV to give you the most amazing offers when it comes to writing a will, but we're also going to be talking about lasting power of attorney.
And the thing is, with wills especially, what you think will happen isn't guaranteed to happen to your belongings, to your possessions, to the things you've worked so hard for. If you've got a certain loved one that you know and you've told them you want them to have, you know, something that's precious to you, perhaps it's an engagement ring, or sadly, unless it's written down by law, that won't actually happen. And what is going to happen could be that actually that precious article that you really wanted to go to a certain person actually goes to somebody else, because there is a government will. And if you haven't written your own will, we all go to the government will, which is very different to what you in your heart would actually want to happen.
And that's why we're joined by specialists over the next 3 hours to talk us through how easy it is and how affordable it is to write a will.
I thought it would be really complicated, and it honestly isn't. Simpler Law make it so easy, but I did think it would be really expensive. We have got some incredible prices tonight. What I always say when we show you this screen is take a photo of this straight away, get all the details for how to get in contact as well, because this is something that's going to give you that peace of mind. Now, we've got, as we say, lasting power of attorney as well, and all you need to do today is secure these prices. Now, we've just been discussing, we don't think we will be seeing these prices again, and sadly, as everything is going up, I think this could be your last opportunity to get the deals we're actually seeing right now. So you see the family actual will at £180, honestly worth every single penny. That peace of mind that perhaps that there won't be that family upset that because you know what happened or was made to be happen by law, you know, you've actually written down what you want to happen, and what you want to happen does happen. You can see there at £89. What incredible value for money. And then you've got 4 payments that you can split that across. So £22.25 is your first of those 4 payments. And if you think about what you spend just on coffee, it's so affordable,
isn't it,
to make sure what you've worked for so hard all your life goes to who you want it to go to.
So that's the first offer. Then we have a second offer for the lasting power of attorney. If you wanted to go for the lasting power of attorney at £325 on a suggested retail price, it's a great price. It's down to £179. Our Shop on TV exclusive price that we've got for you, and those 4 interest-free payments are available to you at £44.75 on your first of 4 payments. The best value of all, though, is if you want to go for a combination of both, the will and lasting power of attorney. Now, it should be £505 on a suggested retail. The Shop on TV offer price we've got for you tonight, exclusive, and as Hayley was saying, it might be the last time we see these prices at £249, is brilliant. And we've also got those 4 interest-free payments, £62.25 on your first of 4 payments.
And don't worry if right now you think, yes, I've got to do a will, I haven't done a will, and you do the will, but then as we talk through the show and you learn more about lasting power of attorney, looking after your loved ones, controlling financially your loved ones if they fall poorly, and you might think, oh, I wish I'd have put that. You can obviously change your mind. It's not the end. As long as you secure a deal tonight when you speak to the team, and they won't get in contact with you until later on today or tomorrow. And honestly, you can change those details. If you think, well, actually, no, I'd like to do lasting power of attorney and will, you will be able to change. Just make sure you secure one of those, because you do get a fabulous book, which we'll go into a bit of detail about.
We'll talk about that in just a couple of moments, but I know you'll want to get in touch straight away. So let's talk about how you can get in touch, because you're not coming to us here at Shop on TV, going direct to Simpler Law. So simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV if you want to go online. If you want to call 03333 600 2600, and the team are there now, and they're there right through till 3 a.m. ready to take your call. But you don't need any documentation, you don't need anything anything with you. You're just securing that deal.
They're not going to ask you any major questions this evening. It's just you securing that deal, and they'll get back in touch in a later date. And then you have got as well the option to text. And I think this is the easiest way to do it. If you text Will to 66777, they will get back in contact with you later on today and discuss at the right time to talk to you properly about your will. That's so easy, because I think sometimes at this time of night you don't really want to speak to anybody. You just sat down, perhaps having a little chill as you've come in from work or just before you go to bed. So just text Will and that will secure the deals. Or you can go through our website if that's what you normally use.
This is really simple as well. There's a little homepage button there. You click straight on there. It shows you the offers that we've got for you, and then you just scroll down, fill in your contact details, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. It's really straightforward, and you're just securing that deal. The reason you're securing the deal is because the first 250 people will get a complimentary book, and this is such a great book. This book is all about having all the details that you need when someone passes away in one place.
It's called What Your Family Should Know, and sadly when you do pass, to try and find all the information, all your bank details, all your passwords. For now we use so many tablets and phones, don't we? And that could be information that you desperately need, but you can't get onto that tablet, you can't get onto that phone. Or it might just be actually you want all the photographs that are on there, but you might need a certain email. Unless you've got that information, everything, your assets, all your bank details, you can see all the information about your house, your home. It's a fantastic book that I always say, I said originally you should have this from birth, but it's a little bit early. But I think from working, it's a book you should definitely have. So instantly all your information is in one place. Now there's two reasons I think to get in touch tonight. Prices, because sadly these prices we don't think you'll be seeing again, so you've got incredible deals tonight, but also for that book the first 250 people will get that complimentary book. So please do, as soon as you think yes, I need to do that. And a will is so important.
So important.
There's nothing worse. It could cause a family breakup. It could cause so much upset that you didn't write a will. And everybody, and you'll learn through the show, everybody should have a will. And
we'll talk about it throughout the 3-hour show that we've got for you. We've got to introduce you to those specialists that we've been talking about. Ian and Charlotte join us from Simpler Law. It's so good to have your company again. When we do these shows, we learn constantly, don't we?
Constantly.
But we'll start with you, Ian, if we can. And if you explain to our viewers who Simpler Law are.
Yeah, of course. Morning, everyone.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, we specialise in estate planning. We offer a full range of private client legal services. I always like at the top of the show when you talk about wills and how important it is. It's something that is not spoken about a lot, and there's not a lot of information readily available. So what we've done as a business is we've tried to make that information more available, and it's through shows like this and exclusive offers like this that we're trying to reach as many people as we can to say, look, you might not have thought about making a will, or you might believe that you don't need one, but let us talk to you and tell you why it's important to at least consider it. And actually what you said is spot on, Hayley. Everyone should have a will. And hopefully this show will explain to people why they should do that. But us as a company, and what we do, and with Charlotte and her team, is we help that making a will easier. Because people, when you speak to people about why they've put it off, it's because of myths, it's because of they've been told something that isn't quite right, or they're worried that it's going to be expensive, or they're worried that it's going to be complicated, or they're worried it might even be morbid, and it's none of those things. But that's why we encourage you, if you're watching this now and you've been thinking about it for a while, or you've seen this show for the second, third, fourth time or whatever, don't put it off anymore. Give us a chance. 40333 600 2600, because none of those things are true. It's definitely not expensive, it's definitely not morbid, and it's definitely not complicated, because we specialise in this. This is all we do. You wouldn't come to me or Charlotte for like boundary disputes or personal injury claims, but when it comes to estate planning, when it comes to looking after your family, your loved ones, and everything that you've worked hard for, making sure that ends up where you want it to go, that's what we specialise in, and that's why Simple Law basically exists.
It's like your final gift to your loved ones, isn't it? It's you making sure what you want to happen happens.
Sounds a little bit dramatic, but it's your last act on planet Earth, and that should be yours. But if you don't make a will, the last thing that happens to your estate isn't controlled by you, it's controlled by, as we're going to discuss later in the show, it's controlled by what we call the government will, but it's basically a set of rules that was it's almost 100 years old, so it doesn't fit the makeup of today's society. But obviously we'll talk about that more as we go through.
We've only just in the last couple of years written a will, but we presumed, we've been together 33, 34 years. We presumed, obviously, our families know that if anything happened to me, mine would be yours, and vice versa. But actually, because we're not married, that would not have happened at all, and we didn't realise that. And I think, Charlotte, there's a lot of misconceptions, isn't there, that you presume that because you've told your daughter or your son that's what you want to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah, assumption is a really, really big misconception with wills, because unless you've got the knowledge out there, you don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I'm just going to search what happens if I don't have a will in place. It's not something you think about unless you've been through it with somebody else or spoken about it to someone that knows what they're talking about. You're just going to assume, like you've just said, we've been together for a long time. Why would it not automatically go to those people? But unfortunately, the law doesn't cover for that. So if you haven't actually put that will in place, it could go as what we call the government will, so what's called rules of intestacy, and it's just a basic diagram of yes or no questions, and the first one is, are you married? And if not, your spouse won't inherit. Partner, should I say, so I won't inherit if you're unmarried. So
and that's just one of many misconceptions that people have when it comes to wills, isn't it?
So many. As Ian said already, cost, which we're hoping to prove today isn't a factor all the time. And a lot of people may think it's complicated or, you know...
I'm always scared of things to do with you know, law, but you make it so simple, because we did my mum's lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law before we even worked with you here on ShopOnTV. You just make it so simple. It's like you hold our hands. I never at one point ever felt that any question was silly, whereas I'm always the one that doesn't ask the question, saying, oh, that sounds really daft, I should know that. Whereas not at any point did I think, oh, I shouldn't ask that. I just felt you became friends, and I felt I could ask you anything. Yeah,
absolutely. You can only know what you know, and the only way that as consultants we can find out how we can help you is by asking those questions. So it's just a conversation, and you have all the answers. We're there to help you find out what you actually want to achieve with that.
We don't lose sight of the fact that because we do this for a living, and this is what we do every single day, and Charlotte and her team, obviously, you know, they'll speak to clients every day, so it's normal for them. For our clients, it's probably the first time they've done it, so they are a little bit, and we don't lose sight of that, you know. So it sounds a little bit crass, but we hold your hand through the whole process.
No, it's
you know, and we'll go at your speed. Some people are like bang, 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 I know what I want to do straight away.
Right.
And other people, you know, it takes a little bit longer for them. Or sometimes something comes up during the consultation that they haven't thought about, that, right, we need to think about that. But that's the whole point of contacting us, is you hit the nail on the head with you can only know what you know. So we encourage you to get in touch, because honestly, everyone should consider making a will, because the consequences of not can be incredibly dire, when actually making a will is so easy and so affordable that it's really heartbreaking when we see something that's gone horribly wrong because someone hasn't made a will, when you know that could have been prevented with a 20-minute phone call.
Gosh,
You know,
it can cause, that's where a lot of family breakup can happen. It's down to...
It's the single biggest cause for a breakdown in family relationships.
Is it really?
Is a bereavement.
I believe it,
Emotions are so high, and someone might have believed that something should have happened, or someone's been told that something should have happened. And it's like you said at the top of the show, unfortunately, just saying that you want something to happen isn't legally binding, and obviously we live in a land of law, so you have to follow the rules. And the rules are quite simple. You either die with a will that you've made, or you pass away without a will, and then the government rules dictates what happens. It's that simple. Don't let the government decide what happens with everything you worked hard for.
And the great thing is you're dealing with Simpler Law, who are specialists when it comes to writing wills and lasting power of attorney. There's other services as well that you offer, but they're all around that area, aren't they?
It starts, I think most people have heard of a will. Some people not so much with lasting powers of attorney, but they're sort of the core estate planning documents, if you like, that everyone really should have. But because of the size that we are, we've got over 200,000 clients, and because of the expertise that we've got within the group, we offer a full range of private client legal services. It basically means that we can meet all our clients' needs. You can see on the screen there that are even down to trust planning and even probate and estate administration. So it isn't just a case of helping you today. We're there for you for the rest of your journey as well, and we're even there to help your family. So where it says things like bereavement service there, that that isn't about us being sympathetic, believe it or not. It's about the practicalities of making sure that everything is done correctly. So we literally do hold your hand through the whole thing. But because we can offer this full range of services, it means we control the quality of the documents that we produce. We don't have to outsource any work, and it means that we control the timescales as well. So you're not waiting weeks and weeks or months and months for your documents. Once you decide to do this, we basically move very, very quickly and say, right, we've got this in place for you. But as I said, we'll only move at the pace that you're happy at. We won't produce your documents till you're happy with the instructions you've given us and you're happy with the advice that we've given you. Whether you take our advice is entirely up to you, but at the end of it, there's one thing that's guaranteed. You'll have a will that's bespoke and is your will, and you can wave goodbye to the government will, and that is invaluable.
It really is. It's something that absolutely everybody should do. It's so important, and the more you sit and listen to us, the more you'll realise that whatever situation you're in, we all need that will, because what you think is going to happen isn't going to happen, sadly. You know, when you pass, sadly, you could be watching, looking down, kicking yourself, watching your family and friends so upset because they know what you wanted, but by law, that isn't what's going to happen. So we're talking mainly about wills right now, but we are going to go on to lasting power of attorney. And Charlotte, I ask you, for anybody that's watching, I think everybody will know what a will is, but a lasting power of attorney, perhaps not.
Yeah, so a will is something that comes into play obviously once you've passed away. Powers of attorney are from now until that point. So if you lose your capacity for any reason, so it could be ill health, could be a freak accident, you hear a lot about dementia, but anything that occurs in your life where you can't make your own decisions, it's where you nominate who you trust to make that decision for you. So again, it's about taking that control and making that decision yourself and saying, I trust this person. So they have the power to essentially manage your accounts, pay bills, decide where you're living. It goes into a lot more detail than that, but you're basically allowing that person to become you in that scenario. So again, it's about making that choice yourself.
And that's another thing that has misconceptions, because I always presumed, you know, I look after my mum now. I would presume if anything happened that I would be able to look after her. Everybody knows that, you know, she's my mum. That's not the case. And when I actually thought about it, even now while she's well, if I ring even about her phone, they won't speak to me. So it's not, you can't take control, can you?
This is the thing, it's similar misconceptions to a will, really, the assumption again. But as you've just said, if you call up to your partner's bank, for example, or even electric bills, there's going to be a data protection there that you've got to go through.
Yeah, are you the account holder? It's
the first question. Are you the account holder? No, that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, and then if you've lost your capacity, you're even more vulnerable. So you're definitely not going to be able to get through that way anyway. So yeah, it's just the misconception. If you don't have these documents in place, you cannot manage anything for that person. And again, this could be down to paying bills, claiming pensions, benefits.
Things
really
in the house.
Don't realise.
We are going to go more detailed.
Because there are two different lasting and powers of attorney as well. There is a health, and we will go into detail, so please do stay with us. But I know we are really busy already in the call centre, and those texts are flying in. So let's give you the details again of prices, because our prices are incredible, because you would think this would be something really expensive to do.
That's what we thought. That was one of the reasons that we'd never got round to it. And it is just getting round to it. So make the appointment today, get started, get that ball rolling.
It's that first step, isn't it?
It really is. So if you want to start with a will, the offer that we've got there is brilliant. And Ian was telling us this could be the last time we see these kind of prices, because everything's going up, isn't it? So if you want to go for the will, it's just £89, a suggested retail of 180, of 4 interest-free payments of £22.25. Remember, that's directly with simpler law. It's the perfect time to get started.
And £22.25, what do you spend a month on coffee? It's so little
it's a week,
to make sure. Yeah, that's so true. It's so expensive. It's so important that you get that will in place. Even if you are completely a person on their own, and we'll explain, everybody should have a will. So important. Lasting power of attorney, we've just briefly talked about that. Should be £325. £179 is our price tonight. And as we were saying, it could be your last chances to see these incredible deals. And those 4 payments, you can split that cost to £44.75. We ordered a Chinese the other night just for us two. It was over £50. Honestly, again, it's making it so affordable. And then if you do decide, and all you need to do, if you think, well, yeah, I'm going to have, we need the will, and then suddenly you think a bit later, oh, I wish I'd done the will and lasting power of attorney, you can change your mind. You're just securing the prices, getting in touch tonight. So secure the will, and then if you decide you want lasting power of attorney to do, because you've got an incredible price there, it should be £505, £249. So it's better than half price, and of course you've got 4 payments. £62.25 is the first of those 4 payments. We'll tell you a little bit about the book in a moment, but let's tell you how to get in touch, because I know we are already really busy. When we start so early, it just gets so busy so quick.
You are getting in touch directly with Simpler Law, so here's a couple of options for you. You can go directly to their website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the call centre. The team are there. They're there right through till 3 a.m. and it's just about securing the offer. Remember tonight, you don't need any documentation, you don't need anything with you. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number, but always the busiest on these nighttime shows that we do is if you want to just send a text, and that secures the offer for you. They're not going to call you right now, they're not going to call you at 9 a.m. in the morning and wake you up early. It'll be later on in the daytime, but you've just got to text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and the team will be in touch with you.
It's so simple, that, isn't it? Yeah. And it's that first step. Sometimes we just keep putting things off, don't we? And I think when we started these shows, I said my mum really needs her patio doing, and she keeps putting it off, keeps putting it off. Another year has gone. We're going back into the winter, and her patio still hasn't been done. And it'd be such a weight off her shoulder if it had been done. But it's actually getting round to it. Tonight is that first step that you take, that you know you will get it done, and it will be the most amazing peace of mind.
It's just starting that process, and that's why these shows are always so busy. It's a great way to start, and great prices. Remember, you can get in touch directly through our website. So if you go to shopontv.co.uk, Simpler Law right there on the homepage, click on there, it'll take you through to the offers, and the offers are all there, and then you just fill in your details there.
And they're really easy questions as well.
Really
I know the answer to all of those, so really easy to fill in, and I'll get back. I would pass that exam. Failed all the others, but I would have passed that one. So honestly, and that's the great thing. It is all very simple tonight. You don't need to know the answer to any questions. You just need to know that you want to get that will in place, or the lasting power of attorney. Now, one of the other main reasons to get those prices secure tonight is the first 250 people will get this fabulous book. And it is an amazing book, isn't it? Because this gives a loved one every bit of information they need if you passed.
Yeah, it sort of came about organically, and it was born out of our estate administration department, because one of the jobs that an executor of a will has got when someone's passed away is to gather their estate together. So, you know, where are the assets? They have to find out where the creditors are. There's quite a bit more to it than that, but essentially, you know, what did that person have? And so this was born out of that, really, and we put this together to make people just take stock and think about what they've got. I think what always surprises us is when people say, oh, I don't think I've got very much. But then they'll turn around and say, well, I've got this in an ISA, this in a savings account, I've got the house, I've got the car, I've got a pension. And it's like, well, and I think because they're not, because none of that's being sold, if you like, they don't think but that all of a sudden there's hundreds of thousands of pounds there. What was interesting, some genuinely scary statistics came out when we were researching this and putting that together. It's believed in the UK there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension funds. Because
people don't know about them.
Yeah, like would your children know that you worked at that company for 5 years when you were 18 and there's money there? So £5 billion of unclaimed pension funds, up to £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies, and it's believed there's £850 million sat in UK banks that people haven't found. So there's an argument for using professionals because we will find stuff like that, but there's also an argument for taking time out and just sitting down, and that's why this book's so popular, because it helps you think about those things and helps your family as well. Everything that we're talking about this morning is selfless, because you're doing it for someone else. You'll find it quite cathartic. You'll actually surprise yourself, because no one ever regrets doing this, because there's nothing to regret. You know, no one ever says, oh, I wish I'd not made a will.
Yeah,
but we'll often hear, sadly too often, we'll hear family members, loved ones say, I thought they'd made a will, or I wish they'd made a will. So no one regrets doing this. But filling out something like that when you've got a cup of tea on a Saturday morning, it's selfless. Making a will is selfless because you're thinking about the other people.
I think absolutely everybody should have that book. And I know a lot of people do try to buy the book, but of course, if you are securing your deals tonight, the first 250 people will get that
give it to you for
book,
free.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I know lots of people at home will be thinking, you know, oh yeah, I should do a will, or perhaps thinking, do I need to do a will? Because if you're an individual single person, and this reminds me of a story you told us, and I thought, oh gosh, as a young gentleman that died, and he wasn't married, he didn't have children, and he didn't have a will.
Yeah, that story stayed with you.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah. And do you know what's sad is, and without again being melodramatic, there's hundreds of those stories. That one stuck with me because I remember seeing the people that were involved with it. But yeah, it was a young gentleman who died suddenly. The backstory was that when he was born, his father left his mother, and so basically the mum was left to bring up her two sons on her own, effectively as a single parent, and they never saw their father again. So there was no contact, there was no birthday cards. It was just basically the dad didn't want to know. Now, he had his reasons for doing that, but basically meant that the boys grew up just knowing the mom and never knew the dad. Now, sadly, one of the boys passed away totally unexpectedly. He was a very successful gentleman, but he was single, he'd never married and he'd never had children. He also, when he passed away, hadn't made a will. And so the government will that we've alluded to earlier on in the show, he gets the government will. So he's said to have what's called died intestate, which means the rules of intestacy come into play. And they're a series of yes-no questions, like Charlotte said earlier. And the first thing they ask of the person that's passed away, the very first question is, are you married, or were you married or in a civil partnership? And the answer is yes or no. There's none of this common law husband and wife that we hear about.
No,
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we thought.
You're either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. It's really that clear. So it's yes or no. And the answer for this gentleman was no, he'd never married. That takes you to the next question, which says, do you have any children? The answer again for this particular gentleman was no. So it takes you to the next question, which says, do you have parents? And the answer, of course, was yes. We knew that his mom was alive, but then she was duty bound as next of kin as his mom to track down her ex-husband who'd walked out on them decades earlier.
Oh, that's awful.
Because the outcome of the government will was that his parents inherited in equal shares. So someone that had never been involved in his life, that you can reasonably expect he wouldn't have made provision for, ended up receiving half of everything he worked for.
And his mum, who's distraught already, has to then go and find the husband that left
this isn't. And the sad thing is, these aren't far-fetched stories, and we don't want to bring it down. But unfortunately, one of the worst phone calls we get in the office is where something's gone wrong and someone hasn't planned. And you know, rather insensitively, we call them the too late phone call, because if someone's passed away and they've not made a will, it's too late. If someone's lost capacity and they haven't made a lasting power of attorney, it's too late.
Yeah.
So if you sat there thinking about it, we all want to spend money on different things, sexier things. Yeah, Will's not sexy, LPAs aren't sexy, I'm not sexy. But in all seriousness, you will not regret spending money on making a will. You will not regret looking after yourself and looking after your family.
It's for everyone else as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you always say. It's not just for you, it's for everyone else.
It genuinely is selfless, but I think what I find interesting is, whilst I said we don't want to spend money on wills, we will spend money on insuring our phones.
Yes.
We will spend money on insuring our house and our car and our boilers. We'll spend money insuring our pets.
Yeah.
You know, often, you know, for years and years and years, buying a will tonight is the equivalent of paying 74 pence a day for just 4 payments over 4 months. I like your analogy of the coffee. Yeah. I mean, I won't buy a can of coffee if it's not on. It's got to be on special. Yeah. I'm not paying £5 for that, but I'll happily pay £5.50 for one drink at a service station. So we don't always spend the money on the right things. You will not regret spending 74 pence a day on a will. It'll be one of the best decisions you've ever made. So if you're watching this, your phone's probably next to you now. Just text the word will to 66777. We'll call you back. Or the team, Charlotte's team there now. The client care team, they're ready to take your call.
And you work within that team, don't you, Charlotte?
Well, works are strong.
Oh, he's terrible.
starting
If you're lucky enough, then you get me.
It's true, actually, yeah.
And you have got an amazing team.
Yeah.
You became friends when we did the lasting power of attorney. You know, you really become part of us because you become a friend because you make things so simple.
Yeah.
And you see that through the 5-star reviews as well, don't
no
you?
doubt, yeah.
I get loads of those.
You do.
Because they don't mention simpler law as such. They mention the person that helped.
But that's what's important because it is, as you say, it's a hand-holding service. We do become your friends because you're talking about something. Yeah, we do take you to a dark place for a couple of minutes to discuss where you want things to go. But it's a conversation in the comfort of your own home, and you do get to know, the team. So it will be, oh, Jack did a really good job, Gemma did this, Kim did this, and it's really nice to see because we've got a passion for it because it's so important. We need to make it right for you so that your wishes are fulfilled.
Our clients might not know what a simple document, what impact that can have.
Yeah.
They may never know how important making that will was, that their family may never know how important it was, but almost that sliding doors effect, they passed away without a will, and it can be absolute carnage. And I'm not being melodramatic, it can tear families apart, especially in the current...
very complicated now, isn't
Absolutely,
it? Sorry to interrupt,
No,
but I think a lot of people, lots of people have remarried. They've got children from different relationships.
Blended families.
Blended families now, yeah.
And that can be disastrous, can't it, if you haven't got a will?
If you haven't got a will, absolutely, because as we've seen with the rules of intestacy, if you pass away without a will, the first question is, are you married? So if you're a couple cohabiting and you've got children from previous relationships, you probably see yourselves, well, you will see yourselves as a whole family.
Yeah.
The children are both of yours. So, you probably had that conversation, the children will inherit, absolutely. But unfortunately, if you haven't got a will, that's the case. So are you married or in a civil partnership, get the word out.
Is this vodka?
I wish.
You can't remember now 'cause you're
I know,
married.
yeah. That's it. So are you married or in a civil partnership, yes or no?
Right.
If the answer's no, and you've got a husband and wife, for example, then that unfortunately isn't going to pass between you. It's going to say, do you have children? Yes. So it's going to pass down the bloodline.
Scary, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you are married, then it's going to pass to your spouse. And then, for example, that spouse will then want it to be split between the children. But unfortunately, if they haven't got a will, that's going to pass directly to their bloodline.
Just to their
only to
blood
their
children.
Just to their
not
children,
their
so that
previous...
It can get even. We could.
So many
waffle
different scenarios.
We could waffle way beyond 3 hours when we talk about the scenarios, because even saying that it passes between your spouse, actually, believe it or not, it's only a certain
very
amount.
true, yeah.
Isn't it?
So
Yeah.
even
It
married
is.
couples think, well, we're going to get everything. Even that's not guaranteed under a government will. The only way that you can make sure that what you want to happen when you've passed away happens is you say, I'm not leaving it to the government will, I'm going to make my own will. So that's why, honestly, if you're watching this tonight and you're thinking, I've been thinking about doing it, but I think it'll be boring, I think it'll be upsetting, or I think it'll be complicated, I promise you it'll be none of those things. We have a 14-day money-back guarantee after you've started your consultation. So if you're not happy with anything we do, just say, it's not for me, I'll have my money back. Next to no one does that, because I said, you don't regret this. The hardest thing is sending that text. Or picking up the phone tonight.
It's just
The
taking
hardest
the step.
thing is
Once
saying
you've
I'm
done
going
it.
to do it, because
It's
honestly,
always that first step,
and,
isn't it?
and Charlotte will tell you this because she's been doing it for years. She's helped hundreds, if not thousands, of clients. The call always ends the same way. I'm glad I've done that.
Yeah,
Weight
the
off my
relief.
shoulders.
It's done, yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
sometimes that
relief.
weight is heavier than they thought it was.
Yeah, I don't think you realise sometimes, especially when you've not been through the consultation and realise what you have, as we said already, what you do have, the consequences of what could happen.
We're really lucky. We get to run a business where we genuinely, and I know this is going to come across as cheesy, but I count myself really lucky. We get to run a business where we genuinely help people because we know that this document, all things being equal, we know there's an inevitability to this, it will be used. And we know that if it's your will, that's going to be right for you and it's going to be right for your family because it's your wishes.
It's exactly
If
what you want.
You've done it. You picked up that phone tonight, you sent us that text tonight, you did something brilliant. If you don't do that and you pass away without making your own will, you are either consciously or subconsciously saying, I'll accept the government will and we'll just see what happens. And truthfully, no one really wants that. You want to know that your children are looked after, your loved ones are looked after. So just make that call.
Well, that is the other thing, because it's not just about the financial thing, the things you own that are worth something money-wise. What about
sentimental things, isn't
and
it?
your children
Yeah.
Your
and your
Guardianship.
pets?
Yeah.
Because if the worst thing happened, perhaps a couple both died in an accident and they had children, again, you can actually in your will put who you would want your children to be looked after by.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can put a guardianship clause in there to state who you would want to take care of your children. If you've got a will in place, that could be obviously friend, family, whoever you choose. But again, the consequences if you haven't got a will in place is that by law you haven't named a guardian. So if you've both passed away and you've got children under the age of 18, then you're relying on the right person to step forward at that point. And who is the right person? Because
sometimes you have competing parents.
this is where arguments then
Grandparents falling out because they both.
And there's nothing documented to say this is what you would want to happen. So you might be very vocal and very clear, or you know, might have had the conversation between yourselves. But if it's not documented, no one knows. And worse still, it's really rare, but worse still, your children can be made a ward of court. They can end up in the care system because it wasn't decided. And most parents know that couple that they would trust, that would want their children to go to.
But
so, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. It's not just about your bank account. It's not about your watch or your jewellery or your house or whatever.
So much more.
Yeah, if you're the parents of young children, you probably know that whilst you don't want to think about it, who does? You want to see your children grow up, but if, God forbid, life threw you that curveball, I don't know why as a parent you'd take the chance that your children wouldn't go to where you would want them to go to. So that's a really important point. So it's important to do this, yeah.
And it's got, you say documented, but it's got to be legally documented, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Our producer, Leslie, has got it all written in her phone.
She's got it. It's all written down on her phone. If anyone can get onto a phone and knows a password.
That's the first thing.
But still, it's not going to be legal. But some people do look at there's templates, isn't there, that you can fill in.
You love this.
Why shouldn't we do one of those?
For the same reason that Leslie has got all her wishes on her phone. So someone finds Leslie's phone. Sorry, Leslie. Someone finds the phone. They will see this is what Leslie wanted to happen. But because it wasn't in her will yet, because she's not sat at the appointment yet, Leslie.
Might be happening today.
But because it's not in a will, it's not in a legally binding document that's signed, witnessed and dated correctly, and we help our clients do all of that, by the way, it's not going to happen. And same with the template. We see so many templates that fail because, unfortunately, when you use a professional like us, one, you get to speak to someone like Charlotte, who, all joking aside, obviously knows exactly what she's doing and how to advise you. We also stand by that advice in so much as we have a £5 million professional indemnity insurance policy. So if we make a mistake, and touch wood we never have, we've never had a claim, we've got over 200,000 clients and we've never had a will fail. Because we give that advice and because it's fully insured, if there is a problem with it, you and your family are looked after. If you decide to take a template, you can only know what you know. There's no one else to turn to, and you're just going to follow that template. And we see so many mistakes in it. And it's not a criticism. It's like if someone asked me to service a car, I wouldn't know where to start because I'm not a mechanic. If someone asked me to pull a tooth, I wouldn't know where to start because I'm not a dentist.
Yeah, it's so true.
So I don't know why such an important thing that's a legal document, unless you know this area of law, I don't know why you'd take the chance. And you still have to buy these templates.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then you've got no protection, no advice, and you've got all the liability. And the heartbreaking thing, coming back to the point I was making, sometimes we find these documents, it's sort of clear what the client wanted to happen, but it might not be signed and dated correctly. There's usually something wrong with them, which is why they fail more often than not. And the heartbreaking thing is you can see what the client wanted to achieve.
You can't do it.
And now actually the opposite is going to happen. You think, well, if it had just used a professional, what he wanted to happen would have happened.
The intention is there, isn't it? The intention is there to actually go and do it.
It's like Leslie having all the details on her phone, but still not fulfilling the appointment to make a will. Sorry again, Leslie.
She's doing it tonight. Is that similar to, you told us a story once about a gentleman and they wrote a will and so much was going to go to his grandchildren, but then when he died it all got very complicated, didn't, because it didn't go to his wife because it'd been.
Well, if I turn to Charlotte and we talk about first death, second death,
It's your turn now.
Is it vodka? We'd immediately know what we're talking about. That might not sound normal to any. Exactly, I'd shrug my shoulders. But when there's a couple, if they're writing wills that sort of mirror each other, so, you know, forgive the finger puppets, but it's usually like on first death, they want everything to go to each other. Then on second death, they might want it to go down to the children in equal shares. But because you don't know who's going to die first, and we give you all this advice, we write the wills to mirror that. This gentleman wanted to leave some cash gifts to his grandchildren, but their estate, the family's estate, they were asset rich and cash poor, if that makes sense.
Right.
So the vast majority of the estate was made up of a house that he owned outright. And it was clear that what he wanted to do is let his wife live there if he died first, that the house went to his wife, and then cash gifts were supposed to go to his grandchildren. But he used a template and he wrote the cash gifts in before it got to his wife. So he wrote them as what we call a first death cash gift. So all of a sudden there's, and when he wrote it, apparently there was only 3 grandchildren, and when he passed away there was 8.
Oh,
and they'd not updated it. So all of a sudden it's just a real mess when it didn't need to be. Again, I can't stress this enough. We use professionals for a lot of things in our life because they're professionals for a reason. And you've got to see value for money. I think we're incredible value for money. And you get, all joking aside, you get to speak to someone specialist like Charlotte. We will
deals with it every day.
Deals with it every day. We will give you advice and we will stand by that advice. Our advice is insured. When you get the documents, we'll phone you to make sure you're in safe receipt of them and that you understand them, you're happy with them. We'll then help you make sure that they're signed, dated and witnessed correctly. So even in this digital age, it's not a valid document until it's got a wet signature on it. So we talk you through all of that.
It's got to be right, hasn't it?
It's a service. It's not just a service about thanks for making a will, here you go, good luck. We make sure it's all done properly for you. Templates don't do that. You're not necessarily going to do that yourself because it's not your specialism.
No, of course not.
I tried to fit a kitchen once. That's a completely different story.
Let's not go there.
And your wife is still with you. It's amazing.
But why didn't I use a kitchen fitter?
That's
it was it was ridiculous. You know, I can do that, and you realise I haven't got the tools, and
that's why you use a specialist.
Yeah.
And with a will, you can do so much, and that's why we've covered everything in the show. But this is just to remind you things like choosing executors. It's about choosing this is a good one, isn't it? What ages your children or grandchildren
absolutely. That's because we've all been 18.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if you got everything on your, at 18, you'd probably just spend it all.
Absolutely. And some people are happy with that, but some people, if you know your children better than anybody else, so you might think, actually, no, I want them to have it at 21 or 25. It's used towards a property.
It is fair to say that most parents, when they do make a will, do take the option to make it just that little bit later, because that gap between 18 and 21 can be the difference between them making a sensible decision with the money or blowing it. So again, but without making a will, you don't even have that conversation. You haven't got that option. So again, if you're thinking about it in the nicest possible way, please stop thinking about it. Just pick up the phone, and if you're lucky, you might even get to speak to Charlotte.
Now, it's really important you get in touch, isn't it?
So important you write that will, and I hope you're learning that as you're listening to what's going on, and you think, oh my goodness, I didn't realise that what I want to happen isn't going to happen unless I write it down legally. And I know we thought it was going to be really expensive. We thought it was going to be really complicated, and it truly isn't.
And you're working with specialists with simpler law. That's why we love to bring you these offers here at Shop on TV. And the offers that we've got for you, let's recap those. So first of all, the will itself. If you do want to write your will, again, at this kind of price, it's brilliant. It's suggested retail of £180 down to £89 on our exclusive price.
That's so affordable, isn't it? You split that to 4 payments, 4 monthly payments, £22.25. And that's the price of perhaps coffee. I was saying you spend in a month, but probably in a week. It's absolutely crazy value for money, that exactly what you want to happen, that peace of mind that when you've gone, your loved ones, it may be a friend you want everything to go to, it may be just one of the children that's looked after you, and the other child you haven't seen for 20 years. The fact is, unless you write that will, what you want to happen isn't going to happen. It's so important, please, to actually get that will in place and make sure you get these deals, because this could be the last time we see these particular prices. We've got some cracking deals.
And your opportunity to get that complimentary book, the first 250 clients also get that book. We'll recap on that in a moment. If you want to go for the lasting power of attorney, we're going to cover that in a couple of moments. But if you want to secure the deal right now, do get in touch. We'll show you that again in just a second. But the lasting power of attorney should be £325 on a suggested retail price, down to £179, and with those 4 interest-free payments, just £44.75. Ian was telling us it could be the last time we see these prices. We know about everything. The price of everything is going up, isn't it? The best offer that we've got on the show, though, is if you go for the combination, the will and the lasting power of attorney.
I mean, you've got a better than half price deal there. Should be £505. £249 is your price. But again, you split that over 4 payments, so £62.25. We had a Chinese the other night just for us. It was £50. So again, it's so affordable, incredible value for money, but that peace of mind. And if you don't know about lasting power of attorney, like Sean says, we're going to talk about it. But if you just for now think, well, I'm going to do the will, and then as we talk, after you've done that, you think, oh, I wish I'd done the will and the lasting power of attorney. Don't panic. When you speak to the team, just say, well, actually, I've changed my mind. I'd like to do the deal with the lasting power of attorney. As long as you secure a deal tonight, you can secure these prices and, of course, get that fabulous book if you're the first 250 people. But I know we are particularly busy tonight. So easy to get in touch as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways. So if you want to go straight to the Simpler Law website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, that'll ensure you get those special deals that we've got for you. The call centre open right through till 3 a.m. and you don't need any documentation, you don't need anything with you.
And the team are great.
Yeah, it's just about securing the deal. Charlotte's one of the team. In fact, I'm not sure if she's the team manager. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number. But the most popular way to get in touch on these evening shows is texting.
I love this. I do all the competitions where you just text a letter. It's really easy. And honestly, though this isn't a competition, you will be winning tonight because you're putting that price, you're securing that deal, and you're making sure you get one of those books as well. You just text Will to 66777. And I think at this time of night, perhaps you don't want to speak to anybody. Perhaps you're, getting ready to go to bed, and you just think, well, I would like to, I do want to take that first step. Just text Will. Even if you're thinking about lasting power of attorney, just text Will, and the team will get back to you later on today. But after 11 o'clock, they all know that you've been up with us late this morning, so they won't be ringing you first thing.
That's the hardest part of this process. What you've just gone, the hardest thing that a client has to do is text or pick up the phone. That's the hardest thing to find it. After that, it's easy.
And it's that peace of mind that you've actually done it. Sometimes we put things off, don't we, continually. And my mum is, she's awful for that. I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And then a year's gone by and you think, I still haven't done it.
And it is just getting the ball started. Now, we talked about reviews with Trustpilot. There are over 5,700 reviews on Trustpilot, and people rave about the people that they deal with, how great the service is. And take a look at this one. I highly recommend Simpler Law. I was so nervous about sorting out my will. It seemed like an overwhelming task. However, my consultant, Andrew, made the experience uncomplicated, structured, and all my questions were answered. Andrew was a professional. He was informative, friendly, and very funny. I never expected to be laughing so much during a serious conversation. It helped my anxiety a lot. Thank you, Andrew. Simpler Law. Please give Andrew a pay rise. Oh, I love that. Oh, Ian's not happy about that. He is amazing. Good old Andrew.
I'm very disturbed by that.
But that's
lovely to hear. It's lovely to hear. Yeah.
And there's so many names that are always mentioned.
Some lovely ones for you.
You've got an amazing team.
No, look, we're really proud of the client care team, and yes, Charlotte is the manager, so she has to take some credit for that.
I'm not going to get out of this room.
But again, it all comes back to because they know how important their job is, and they know that because they do this every single day that our clients don't. So, we won't give you abbreviations, we'll explain everything. We'll make sure that you're happy. If you're not happy, we won't proceed. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And it all starts, we send you information out even before the appointment, so there's things for you to think about and consider. And then we'll hold your hand through the whole process. And I said, some people know exactly what they want to do straight away. Some people it takes a bit longer. That's fine. This is your will. That's the whole point. This is your will. What we guarantee at the end of it, whether you take our advice or not along the way, is at the end of it, you will get a will that's right for you.
Bespoke for you.
And more importantly, that puts the government will in the bin.
Yeah,
That's
which
the
is what
really
you
important thing
definitely
here.
want to do. You don't want the government telling everyone what to do with what you've worked so hard for all your life, and it going to all the people perhaps you didn't want it to go to, not your loved ones, not the friend that's helped you out. You know in your head and you've told them, that's what I want to happen. It won't happen unless you've written it down.
Sorry.
No.
If you're sat there thinking I don't need a will, what you need to do, and I don't mean to be patronising, ask yourself why you think that and who told you that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's a common thing. People will speak to me and say, "Oh, I don't need a will," and I don't mean to be clever. But I'm like, "Well, who told you that?" And they might say something like, "Well, I've told my eldest son, so he knows what needs to happen."
Yeah.
He hasn't got the legal authority to do that. You have to make
It's
a
out
will.
of your hands, isn't
You have to make a will that names him as the executor of your will, so he's got the power to do that. So there's lots of people who think that just talking about it, as you were about to say, or maybe someone down the pub said to them, "You don't need to do it because you're common law husband and wife."
Yeah, you've lived together all them years.
In the nicest possible way, if they're not insured and they're not a qualified professional, please don't take advice off them.
I think we'd probably heard we were common law.
That's exactly what
you know, husband and wife, and we'd be absolutely fine. We had no idea.
No.
Together for 34, 30, 33, however many, 30 odd
You
years.
lucky girl.
My goodness, can you imagine the devastation that I wouldn't get it after I'd suffered all that? Like, my goodness. But the truth is, we wouldn't, even though our families would absolutely know that if I died, it went to you. If you died, it went.
Seems unfair, doesn't it?
But it
seems ridiculous.
It wouldn't have happened.
The law doesn't.
And we had no idea.
The law doesn't care.
No.
And it really is this simple. If you don't make your own will, which is why we do these shows, please, if you're thinking about it, do it. You won't regret doing it, because if you don't make your own will, you don't have your will in place when you pass away, you will get the government will. That's it. There is no ifs, buts or maybes. There is no, but I've told my son, or I've written it on a piece of paper.
That could
Doesn't matter.
devastating.
No grey area.
That could cause a family upset. And I don't know what happens when we go, but can you imagine looking down and just thinking, if I'd have written that will, none of this would be happening now. They wouldn't have fallen out.
Truthfully,
there wouldn't have been that upset.
All the horrible stuff that we see, because we deal, with probate and estate administration, all the awful stories that we hear and, that sometimes we share in training sessions and conversations like this, the heartbreaking thing, honestly, is they are all avoidable.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that's the... And I don't know why we're frustrated, because it's not our family and it's not our money. But we're looking at situations and going, if that client had picked up the phone to us, we'd have fixed that in 15 minutes. Honestly, that's the difference. And that's...
The big thing is, how easy it is.
Yeah.
And perhaps you're sat at home just thinking it's complicated, it's difficult, it's too expensive.
It won't.
None of those things. With the deals we've got tonight and with Simpler Law, it's so simple and it's so affordable. We are busy. Do, of course, you can either go through the phones, you can text, or you can go through our website as well, ShopOnTV. You can click straight onto Simpler Law and it will take you to Simpler Law's page with the prices in a really easy form.
It's so straightforward, and if you change your mind whether you want the will or the lasting power of attorney, which we're going to move on to right now, or if you want a combination, you've even got a contact button there if you want to contact directly.
Don't forget the prices we've got this evening.
Might be the last time we see
Possibly
those.
won't be these prices, sadly, again, because everything is going up and obviously things have to change. So you really have got some really amazing deals. You may have seen lasting power of attorney there, and I think lots of people know about a will, but not a lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, and when it comes to lasting power of attorney, for anyone at home, let's start right at the beginning with it and explain what it actually is, if we can.
Well, in the simplest of terms, we know that a will is going to be used.
Right.
So, because there's an inevitability to what happens. A lasting power of attorney isn't necessarily going to be used by you or your family. In fact, you hope it isn't used by you or your family. Now, I want to be clear, lasting powers of attorney are not an insurance policy, but they can be viewed a little bit like it. I rather cheaply call them a what-if document.
Right.
And in the simplest of terms, a lasting power of attorney is a document you put in place today whilst you have mental capacity, so you're clear on what decisions you want to make, and you know the people around you that you love and trust. And what you do is you say, if life threw me a curveball, if I was in an accident, if, God forbid, dementia is prevalent because we're all living longer, if, God forbid, I was struck by dementia, Alzheimer's, that kind of thing. If I found myself in a position where I couldn't make decisions for myself, both financially or for my own well-being, who would I want to make those decisions on my behalf? Who do I trust? And typically it's your spouse, it's your partner, it's your children, it's your closest friends. But you know who those people are. You know that person that you could phone at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I need your help. That's the person that you trust. Well, you can name them in a lasting power of attorney document as your attorney. And for all intents and purposes, that document has to be registered with a body called the Office of the Public Guardian. Once it's registered with them, the people or the person that you named as your attorney, for all intents and purposes, becomes you in the eyes of the institutions that you deal with.
Right.
So they can walk into your bank and you've got a document that's that powerful that you've made them you. So they can deal with your financial affairs. And if it's to do with health and welfare, I know we're going to differentiate the two, they can make decisions about your well-being as well. So, as I said, oversimplification, but essentially, you put in that document who you would want to step into your shoes if you couldn't make decisions for yourself. But the only time you can do that is right now, when you've got capacity. If life threw you a curveball, I never want to say tomorrow, but if you'd lost capacity yesterday and you hadn't got a lasting power of attorney, no one can make a lasting power of attorney for you. So like you said, you wanted to help your mom and everyone knows that you're going to do right by your mom, but without the lasting power of attorney that you did with us, you actually wouldn't have the legal authority to make decisions for your mom.
No, I think again, like there's misconceptions with wills, there's misconceptions with lasting power of attorney, because you do presume, especially if you're a daughter or a son and you've always looked after your mum or your dad, that if they were too poorly to make those decisions to pay their bills...
You'd just step in, wouldn't you? But it's not the case.
That will not happen, will it, at all?
I wouldn't. I think a lot of it comes from because potentially you could be doing that now, but your mum or partner, whoever it is, has got capacity.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will say, well, they've got the capacity, so I can do that for them. But even contacting their banks, for example, or their bills, there's a data protection there, and the first question they'll say is, are you the account holder?
Yes.
And if you're not that person, you
Calls
can't
over,
get through. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that person, the account holder, has lost capacity, the barriers are up even higher because they're vulnerable. They're a vulnerable adult.
If you look at it like you can't do it when they're healthy. Why would you be able to do it when
they're poor?
they've lost capacity?
Yeah, and that's a brilliant point, Sean. And I think sometimes people don't follow that logic through. That I couldn't walk into my wife's bank today and say, "Oh, I'm married to Jeannie. Could I have access to her account, please?" They'll say no. And if tomorrow I went and said, "Oh, my wife's lost capacity," has anything changed? Actually, one thing that's changed, she's even more protected now. She's a vulnerable person. But I couldn't access it when she had capacity. I certainly can't access it when she hasn't got capacity.
Yeah.
But obviously, me and my wife have got lasting powers of attorney, giving us that authority. Yeah. Now, we hope, touch wood, this is not wood, touch wood, that we never need to use those documents.
Yes.
But they're in place in case we need to do.
Just in case.
So we made them, we've got them signed, witnessed, funnily enough, they're all validated, they're ready to go, but in the hope that we never need to use them, either of us.
But that is the biggest weight off your shoulders. When we did mums, it was like, wow, because it allows you, and there are two different types of lasting power of attorney.
So this is the property and affairs, isn't it, that we're talking about? So it's financial, if you like.
Yeah, anything from a financial point of view. So as we've just said, if you've got the financial power of attorney, that gives you the authority then to go to the bank and manage
keep the house going, keep paying their bills.
Yeah, pay bills, claim pensions, benefits if they're receiving certain benefits, managing the property as well if there's properties, if they even have rental properties. A lot of people have multiple now. So anything from a financial point of view,
if you needed to sell the property for them to go into a home and things, you're in control.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely. And it's that person you trust again. It's you making that choice of saying, this is the person I trust because they're going to have my best interests at heart.
So what would happen then if we hadn't got a lasting power of attorney? If, say, a parent did have an accident or became poorly and couldn't look after themselves anymore, what could you do? How could you help?
Without power of attorney, essentially, you can't do anything apart from applying to what's called the Court of Protection, because at that point it's too late. Once you've lost your capacity, you can't then put these powers of attorney in place. It's then a case of applying through, as I say, the Court of Protection, which essentially is you having to prove that you've got that person's best interests at heart.
Yeah, they're there to protect the vulnerable person. So it could be your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, who obviously genuinely just wants to help, but the court's there.
But they don't know that, do they?
No, and it's awful because, of course, at a time at a time when you want to be looking after your loved one, you're actually dealing with the legal process and having to prove that no, my motives are true. I just want to help my wife, I want to help my husband, I want to help my mum, I want to help my dad, and the court process is horrible.
And costly as well.
We just saw some prices there.
Oh,
and this is, if you didn't have lasting power of attorney, this is what it could cost or begin to cost.
Just the start, isn't
Well,
it?
yeah. I mean, the application alone is £408. That's just to start the process.
For you to apply to say, I want to look after my mum, I want to look after
that's
dad.
before you've actually even got any further.
And then it's the time that process can take, isn't it?
That's doing it yourself, and very few people do, because they're dealing with a loved one, and unless you're familiar with the court process, and you can find out for yourself what the paperwork looks like. It's horrific.
It is.
You know, this is an industry and a profession that I work in. I wouldn't want to fill out those forms. They're awful.
No.
But so those are the fees just if you do it yourself. Most people incur professional fees on top of that. But you're right, the fees are awful. When you consider that today you can do a lasting power of attorney for £179, all those fees disappear. But worse than that is the time.
Yeah.
But there's two things that you really got to be concerned about. Put fees to one side, which are atrocious, but put those to one side, is how do you know it's the right person that's going to apply to the court protection? Some families are fractured. They might not have a relationship with the son, but it might be the son that comes forward and says, I want to control. Because you've lost capacity, you don't know. You have no control who's going to go to the court protection. Then it's up to the court to decide whether you're going to be given the deputyship order. But it's the length of time. Let's assume the right person has turned up. It's taking between 9 and 12 months for the order to be granted.
So that person, your loved one, could have died in that time, and you still haven't sorted it out.
That's what we're seeing sometimes.
That's the worst thing, isn't it? I mean,
we're bringing the show down a little bit, but it's because, again,
I think a lot of people...
It's frustrating because it's one of those things, again, you don't want to spend money on a lasting power of attorney, and of course it's never going to happen to any of us. I've got lasting powers of attorney, firmly believing nothing's going to happen to me. But we see it every single day, and of course, because of the size that we are, of course we see it every day. But this is one of those things that you pick up the phone, you do it, you put it in place, and then you forget about it and hope you never need to use it. And I come back to, we'll insure our boiler. We'll look, if our boiler breaks down, we'll cover the cost of that. We'll insure our car if the car...
They can't come to November to service ours, and I've got an insurance on the boiler.
But if you ask people what's important to them, the life and the health, or the house or the car, you know, what's the most important? Unless you're joking, most people say, well, our well-being, our life and our health are important, and then it's the house, and then, and then it's the car. But the house is protected with insurances, the car's protected with insurances, the boiler's protected, you've protected your pets, you've protected your phone. The thing that you said is most important,
you haven't
each other, you've not looked at. We always neglect ourselves.
I do think as well some people won't know about lasting power.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I think we've all heard of a will, but I think unless you've been in a horrible situation where perhaps you know of someone that didn't have the lasting power of attorney, and then you discover how important. That's how we discovered how important it was for you to have it for your mum and dad, and for me to have it for mum.
Yeah, it's so important. The great thing also tonight is you can have that combination. You can have the lasting power of attorney and a will. We are going to cover the second lasting power of attorney in a moment, but if you want to go for the combination, it is the best way forward. It's the best saving if you go for the will and the lasting power.
That's complete peace of mind, isn't it? That everything's sorted, and then you can just carry on living, carry on enjoying, and not
you never use it.
Absolutely.
I love that.
But you just never know. My friend awfully got knocked over by a car 9 years ago, still extremely poorly. But if there hadn't have been a lasting power of attorney, she was a vegetarian, even down to the fact of what they would have made her eat.
And that's what we're going to talk about now, isn't it? Because this is
there's so many
the second option
things
when
that
it
are
comes
so
to
important.
lasting power of attorney. This is the health and welfare. In fact, we've got some details here to show you, and then we'll run you through, because without this particular power of attorney, all those personal things are taken away.
Well, I think they're both as important as each other, aren't they, these? Because obviously the money side is very important, but as soon as me and Mum looked into this for Mum, that was the main reason we got in contact with you. But then as soon as you told us about the health and welfare, there wasn't even a doubt in our mind that we didn't need to do that as well, because that was, in my heart, even more important.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see the benefits of the financial because it's practical. You need to pay your bills, you need to manage the property.
Money makes the world go round.
Absolutely. Whereas with the health, it is still completely important, because if you don't have that document, that person then can't decide where you're living. So if they want you to be at home with them, if it's a daughter, for example, and they want to look after you at home, they might not be able to make that choice for you. Discussing things like medication, but as you've just said, even down to what you're eating, what you're wearing. If you're a vegetarian, if you're in care and they don't know that, your loved one does. Give them the right to do that. That's that person that you trust. By putting that document in place, as simple as picking up the phone and doing that today, that person that you love can then make that decision for you and make those people aware, because who knows you better than your loved ones?
Exactly.
There are some really desperate stories out there of like children basically taking the parents out of care homes without the legal authority.
I remember one at Christmas time. She was a nurse, I think, actually, and it was in the paper.
I had to care for my mum, but you haven't got the legal authority to do it. So
no, I think the police came and everything, didn't they? And she.
Some of these things get blown out of proportion, and logical, fair-minded people think that doesn't. It's like that doesn't seem fair. But again, unless you have the legal authority, you know, when you see that list of things that a health and welfare lasting power of attorney can do, they sound really trivial when you're reading it with capacity. When you're like, where you live, what you eat, what clothes you wear, where you go, even what people you see. You might know that your mom has fallen out with her sister and hasn't spoken to her for 30 years. That sister, your auntie, then finds out that mom's in a care home, has lost capacity and decides that she wants to come and start to visit her, and you know that she's all kinds of. This is really personal, but that's the whole point. Is you lose that power if you don't donate it to somebody else. So again, we don't encourage our clients to dwell on death when we make a will. We don't encourage our clients to dwell on losing capacity if they make a lasting power of attorney. We ask you to think about it for a minute and then deal with it and then put it to one side. And again, I come back full circle to, you never regret putting a lasting power of attorney in place, and you never regret making a will, but your family might. Because it's those that are affected by what happens to you. So it's everything that we're talking about today is selfless. So if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for the people that are around you.
It is completely selfless. You know, it could stop so much upset in the future, and it's so simple to do. We've got incredible prices tonight, and they are incredible prices. You do need to secure these deals though, so please, if you are thinking, yes I do, I need to do that will, if you want to do the will, you can see there should be, and I thought the will would be really expensive, £180. I'd happily spend £180, but actually our price tonight, £89, so better than half price. As we've been saying a few times, we think this will be the last time they are these prices. Sadly, everything is going up, so whilst we've definitely got these prices, do grab them. And if you split that cost, which you can with those 4 payments, £22.25. 4 payments. I bet you spend more than that on coffee.
74p a day.
74p.
It's nothing, is it?
No.
Or cigarettes or whatever. You know, you just think, hang on, it's £22.25 for 4 months. I know I've done the right thing, and what I want to happen with whatever you own.
We went somewhere the other night and that was 2 drinks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely selfless, but you could stop a big family upset. And you know as well, it's your peace of mind that what you've worked hard for, or your treasured possession, that ring, goes to the person that you want it to go to. Because sometimes it really can go to the wrong person, the person, you know, you really didn't want it to go to, because the government law falls in place if you haven't, you know, the government will, if you haven't got a will yourself.
That's just the first offer that we've got for you. We've just been talking about lasting power of attorney. At suggested retail price of £325. Now remember, there are 2 different types. We've talked about the health and the financial. If you are in Scotland, there's a joint document that Simpler Law also can specialise in for you, and so they can cover all that as well. If you want to go for the lasting power of attorney, either one, £179 is the reduced price, £44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. But like we were saying, the best value is if you go for a will and a lasting power of attorney. Should be £505. It's better than half that price, and it could be the last time we see these prices. Like we said, £249 or £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. The first 250 clients will also receive What My Family Should Know book. It's worth £25. It's a book where you will keep everything in one place, all your financial details, all your passwords.
There's nothing worse than trying to find all the bits of information that you need and where they are, and if they're in a shoebox or whether they're hidden in a secret place, but actually a lot of things now are on tablets and on phones. So it's actually vital that your family know your password. So even if it's just for the photographs, but actually there might be important emails on there. We know of a gentleman that sadly died, and they desperately needed to get onto his tablet, and they couldn't get the information they needed, apart from all of a sudden the little grandson piped up. He says, "Oh, I know the password," and they're like, I played on Grandad's tablet, and he had the password. Otherwise, it would have been absolute nightmare. So it's all really important things, and these are really important things as well, because sometimes you think you know about your parents, but you didn't know what they were doing when they were 18, or.
No, we don't sit around in the UK, do we, over breakfast as well, and say, let's talk about death, let's talk about incapacity, let's talk about what we've got. We're not open like that. But you're quite right. I've got a reasonable idea of what my dad did. My dad's 80 at the end of this month. Happy birthday, Dad. And I know he worked at the steel mills in Sheffield, but I also know he had some jobs before that. I'd have no idea if my dad's got pensions that are being unclaimed. I mean, he should be claiming them all at 80, but this is my dad, so who knows? but I don't know everything, and that's the same, and that's why sometimes things get missed. And the statistics which I mentioned earlier in the show are quite scary, really. That it's believed there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots. Where it's just £5 billion.
Gosh.
Yeah, billion.
And that could be information in there is claimed.
There's paid up life insurance policies that are not being claimed for £2 billion. There's £850 million sat in bank accounts, and that's one of the reasons we put this book together. Is it just helps you take stock, and it just helps your family locate what you've got. It helps you take stock as well. It's been really well received.
And lots of people want to buy it, because the first 250 people will actually get it if you are securing those deals tonight. And I think everybody should have one. Definitely. I did originally say you should have it from birth, but that's a little bit early. But from working day, as soon as you start working, I think definitely it's something that you should. Everybody should. Now,
we haven't shown you how to get in touch. We must remind you once again how easy it is to get in touch. You are contacting Simpler Law directly. There's a couple of different ways, either on the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the call centre 0333 600 2600, and the team are there. They're in the call centre. You don't need any documents. You don't need to know what you want to do in your will. It's just about securing those special prices.
And the team are amazing. You might have a couple of questions to ask them tonight, but then honestly they'll get back to you later on today, and they'll discuss a time when it's right, where you can really sit down, and they'll talk you through absolutely everything. They hold your hand. They'll become a friend. It's amazing. When you look at the Trustpilot reviews, you really do see they do become a friend. However, you might be thinking, well, I don't really want to chat to anybody now, or I don't want to do anything. I could just do something really easy. How easy is texting Will to 66777, and if you text Will to 66777, again the team will get back to you later on today, and what that'll do is it'll secure the prices that we've shown you, which we do think this could be the last time we see those prices, so grab it whilst you've got the deals that we've got, but it'll also allow you to secure that book for the first 250 people. And if you do change your mind, if you think, well, I'll do the will, and then when you listen a bit more, I think actually that lasting power of attorney, I wish I'd done both now. When you speak to them, it'll be so easy just to change. They are absolutely incredible. But if you normally go through our website, you can do that as well.
Yeah, you can go straight to our website. You'll see it on our homepage. There's a little logo there for Simpler Law. Just click on there, scroll down. The offers are there. Scroll further down. That's the details that they need. Dead straightforward, really simple. If you want any questions answered, you can also contact Simpler Law directly through that little contact button at the bottom of the screen there. So everything's covered for you. Everything's really straightforward. You don't need to be put off anymore about making a will or a lasting power of attorney, because Simpler Law literally walk you through everything.
And you don't want to put it off, because honestly it can be so upsetting if you haven't written a will. It's like your final gift to your loved ones, and they might all know what you want to happen to your, whether it's belongings, or whether it's a special ring, or whether it's your pet, or whether it's the kids. Everybody might know what you want, but unless it's written down legally, you will be blown away what actually happens. Because if you haven't got a will, there's a government will.
Yeah, and we'll go through that and what happens in that process if you haven't got it written down.
Sean and myself, we've been together 33, 34 years, and obviously, if something happened to me, it would go to Sean. If something happened to Sean, it would go to me. Our families know that.
Not the case.
And that would not have been the case. We didn't know. We presumed common law, wife and husband. We presumed that,
such
you know,
thing.
there is no such thing. So please, you do, whatever situation you're in, you need to write a will if you want what to happen to your what you own, whatever it is.
What you've worked for.
Yeah, and whether it is the kids, whether it is that pet. If you've got something in your head that you know you want to happen, you have to have it written down legally.
Now, lots of reviews for Simpler Law, over 5,700
just a few.
Trustpilot reviews. We're going to share another one with you now. Great will writing service at a competitive price. Very professional service and was guided through each step of the process with easy to follow options on the types of wills available to you without any pressure to purchase. Charlotte was very helpful in explaining what each option covered so we could make informed decisions on what we required in our wills. Such a weight off our shoulders to finally have our wills in place after contemplating it for years. You might be that person who's contemplated it for years. Well, today could be the day that you start that process, that you get the ball rolling.
Yeah, we put so many things off, don't we? My mum, she wanted patio doing for
Still
be
does.
3 years, and I'll do it next spring. I'll do it at the end of the season, and again, it still hasn't been done. And it would be such peace of mind and a weight off her shoulder if it had been done going into the winter. But yet again, you know, another year's passed by. It'll be Christmas before we know it, won't we? And you still haven't got things sorted.
Oh, that got some size.
But that's the year is just flying, and unless you take that first step, I think suddenly
Everything
another
just
month's
creeps
gone.
up on
Life
you,
gets
doesn't
in the way, doesn't it?
It does,
Yes.
yeah, it really does.
Everything gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, we talk about the process being easy. We try and make it easy for our clients, and as I said, we remove the cost issue. I think, you know, we do these exclusive offers through ShopOnTV for that reason. Hopefully, seeing someone like Charlotte's the epitome of who you'll be dealing with, you know, and I'm sure that you actually sent that.
She didn't send that review in. Somebody sent it in.
But Charlotte and the team do know that this is probably the first time that you've gone through this process, and we understand that, so we help you with that, and we send you some information even before you sit your appointment so you can prepare a little bit for it. But some people might even pick up the phone and feel unprepared, but that doesn't matter, because that's our job. It's our job. We have all the questions that we need to ask, and of course you have all the answers, because this is going to be your will. And at the end of it, you get a document that you only get when you tell us you're happy with the advice that we've given you and you're happy with the instructions that you've given us. Once you've got that document, we then help make sure that it's signed, dated and witness correct, because that's really important. So we hold your hand through the whole process, and we'll go at a speed that helps you. And what's really lovely about it is we know that big or small, that's going to have done something amazing for your loved ones, because that is now your will and it's in place. Without making your own will, you're going to leave your family to deal with your estate via the government will, of which no one has any control. That's just the default position. I'll sometimes in seminars and training sessions, you know, be a little bit crass and say who has got a will and who hasn't got a will, and the people that say that they haven't got a will, I say you're wrong, because if you haven't made your own will, the government very kindly give you one. But of course it's the same rule for everybody. There's only 4 of us in the studio this morning, but our situations are all completely different, and yet if we didn't make our own wills, the government would give us the same will and just hope that it works out for you, and it just doesn't.
No.
We never ever have drafted a will that matches the government will.
No, I bet not.
Because it's not personal.
No, it's not.
When you make your own will, you choose the people that you trust to manage and deal with your will. That can be loved ones, it can be friends, it can be a professional, it can be a combination of those, but you choose who's going to deal with it. If you've got children, you can choose at what age your children are going to benefit from your estate as well. Not all parents want the kids to inherit 18. Staying with children, if you've got minor children as well, you can name your guardians. This is a really personal document. You know,
There's so many things that you can put in your will that you don't even realise, isn't there?
And there's so many misconceptions thinking, well, everybody knows who I want my children to go to.
Oh, godparents is the one that we get thrown in.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Which obviously is a religious position, not a legal position. if you've got children in school, if you're asked to sign a document, at the bottom, if you pay attention, next time you get one, you'll see there's only 2 people can sign it. It's either a parent or a guardian. It doesn't say anything about godparents or your sister. Or there's a legal position you've got to be, and unfortunately, and it is heartbreaking, isn't it, that all of these things that can go wrong and sadly do go wrong are fixed with the phone call tonight.
So easy.
So easy. And a will isn't also just about where something's going. You can also add exclusions in there as well.
Yeah.
So where it isn't going.
Absolutely, because we've already said blended families, but there are also families out there where they're estranged from loved ones, whether it be a child or a parent or a sibling, whoever that person is.
Right.
You can also make sure that person isn't going to inherit, so that what you have worked hard for is going to who you want it to. So again, it's just all about making that choice. There's so much you can achieve in it, and all you've got to do is pick up the phone, text, anything. Take
And you got Simpler Law specialise, don't you? This is what you do.
Yeah. This is all we do.
Yeah.
And we are very well trained. I'll give you something now.
Thank you.
But yeah, this is what we do, and we've said it so many times. It's a hand-holding service. We're going to go at your pace because it's got to be right for you. So you don't have to have any answers. That's what our job is to get those from you.
Right.
And at the comfort of your own home, have a cup of tea, sit on the sofa, sit
It is
in
just
your
a
bed.
chat like we're sat chatting today.
It is, it's a conversation.
It really is. When we did lasting power of attorney for Mum, it was exactly that. We FaceTimed because I sat with Mum, you know, because she worries about doing things like this. I do as
Like
well.
lots of people do.
I'm just frightened of law. You know, if there's a policeman behind with his lights on, I did it. I'm like, that, it's me. It just scares me. I'm not going to say the right thing. I'm not going to do the right thing. So we both sat there petrified to start off with. And then it was just a really nice conversation.
Yeah.
And at no point did I feel I couldn't ask you something. And really, just chatting, you got the information
You
from
know
us
what to
without
ask,
even
don't you?
us thinking,
definitely.
really.
Yeah, and it's understandable that you'd be nervous because, again, it's the unknown, isn't it? You don't really know what to expect from it. So that's why, like I say, we do just take that time. And you saw a review earlier where it said we were laughing through the consultation. You know, we do that. We take you to a dark place for a small period of time because we have to have that conversation. But it's just having that conversation. You can have an enjoyable time. It sounds odd, but it isn't. While you're going through that consultation, and the amount of people that we speak to, you get to the end of a consultation and the client says, "Oh, that actually wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
It's quite a relief, I think, isn't it, for
a
a
weight
lot of
lifted
people?
off my shoulders, and it's done."
That's
And
it.
you get the will. Obviously, we've said we support you in making sure that's signed correctly and legally, and you can put it away and know that you've done something really good today.
And that's important, the
Sorry.
signature, isn't it? I was just going to say, when we did ours, Mum's a neighbour, that she's been our neighbour all my life, and we've always known her as her name. But when she signed the documents, actually the name we know her of is actually her middle name. We didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so luckily you picked up on that and said it's got to be named and signed correctly.
You've written one
So,
name and signed another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we would have never even, and that little detail could have stopped it being official, couldn't it?
We make sure it's done properly. There's nothing more upsetting than when someone's actually gone to the trouble of creating a document, but then, you know, I'll put it in a drawer and not sign it. In the nicest way, we pester you a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you used our free validation service? Have you signed it yet? Because there's no point in drafting it and not signing it, because it's not valid until it is. But we hold your hand through all that process. And again, that's what you get for as little as 74p a day. Is we make sure that at the end of it, you get your will signed, dated and witnessed correctly that is going to work. Now, let's be really honest, a will doesn't make a bereavement easier. What it definitely does is it doesn't make it worse, because you did a will.
Yeah.
So this is now what's going to happen. It's like with the lasting power of attorney, it doesn't make seeing someone lose the capacity. I mean, there's lots of adverts about dementia and people dying a little bit every day. They're awful. It doesn't make something like that any less difficult.
No.
But having a lasting power of attorney for your family means that you've not made it worse.
Yeah.
These, what seem insignificant and almost boring documents, I'm going to say something weird, I love them because I know what they can do for family members. I know it's not going to make a bereavement easier. I know it's not going to make the loss of capacity easier, but I can guarantee it won't make them worse. Without those documents, there's an incredibly high probability that things are going to get worse after the bad news.
So if someone did die and they haven't written a will,
Yeah.
what actually happens? Because they haven't got a will, but there is a will in place, isn't there?
Yeah, you're said to have died intestate. That's the technical term. So if you die intestate, that means you didn't have a valid will in place when you died. That means that you get given what we call the government will. Now, in 1925, when society was very different to 2024, it's almost 100 years ago, a set of rules were put into legislation called the rules of intestacy.
So these rules are from 1925?
What you're seeing on the screen there is the government will.
Wow.
It hasn't really been touched for 100 years. There's been a few tweaks with numbers, but other than that, they're all, because it's too complicated. So the government, understandably, just had to leave it alone.
Leave it there.
Would just leave it because there has to be a default position, otherwise nothing would happen.
But we're also different to how we were in 1925, aren't we?
Well, if in 1925, if you spoke to a client that was on the second marriage, that Mr. had a child from a previous relationship, Mrs. had a child from a previous relationship, and they may have had a child together, let's be honest, your head would have exploded.
Yeah. What?
Today, that's
Normal,
50% of the UK.
Yeah.
You know, a dynamic family is normal. That's not unusual. The rules of intestacy haven't moved on, and it sounds melodramatic, but people in those situations without wills, it literally and figuratively rips that family apart because it follows your bloodline and your marital status.
So what does that mean? So say there was two. I've got your finger puppets.
Yeah.
There were two married people, and they had children from other partners, but they lived together as a family with all the children.
Well, I'll tell you very quick. I was asked to see a client. I was referred to a client, and I went, and she was a lovely lady. The man wasn't so welcoming because he thought it was a waste of time. It was a typical man. I don't know why we need this. So I said, I totally understand, but let me explain why I'm here and what we do. And it turned out that they'd actually been married for over 20 years. They'd been together on their second marriage longer than they'd both previously been married. But they'd both previously been married, and they both had daughters from the previous relationship. So they saw themselves as a complete family, and the girls saw themselves as sisters. There was no mention of stepsister, there was no mention of stepdaughter. I totally get that. But in the eyes of the law, they weren't both daughters, one was a stepdaughter, because one wasn't from the same bloodlines. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Forgive the finger puppets. Without a will, and I just said this to him, I said, if you passed away first, I said, under the rules of intestacy, the government will, everything will go to your wife. He said, yep, that's what I want. I said, that's great. I said, then when your wife passes away without a will, it all goes to her daughter and nothing goes to your daughter. He went, nope. And I went, yep. And I said, it's not me doing this.
Yeah.
Those are the rules of intestacy. It follows the bloodline. It makes no provision for stepchildren. It's only for your children or adopted children. It follows your bloodline. Then the penny sort of drops. I said, and vice versa, if your wife died first and it came to you and then you died, it would all go to your daughter. He said, well, I'll make sure that I'll sort it out. And then he said, and the girls would look after each other. And even both of them paused at that point going, would you want to put them in that position?
Yeah. There's too much pressure.
When they've all agreed that they wanted the girls to inherit in equal shares. So it took 15 minutes to take an instruction. They made sure they left everything to each other, and then on second death they've made sure that the girls inherit in equal shares. And the girls are going to oversee it because they've put them in as executors alongside us. So it's all going to get resolved. It was a 15-20 minute conversation, which, had they not done, the lottery was whoever died first, their daughter wasn't going to inherit. And that's not us saying that, that's what happens. You can look this up yourself, look at the rules of intestacy. It doesn't care about you.
I don't think people would even be aware of it.
Why would you?
No.
I'm aware of how geeky and squeaky I sound right now, but it's because we know what problems this can create. And
well, you see it, don't you, every single day?
Every day, and without exaggerating, every day. You know, we get a phone call saying, you did this for us and did this, but my dad's just died, but he didn't have a will, what happens now? And recently I had a conversation where there had been quite a breakdown in relationship with the family, and the father had made it very clear that one son had been a bad egg, and this is personal preference, didn't want his son to inherit, but hadn't got a will, so all the children are going to inherit in equal shares, and the other children were beside themselves knowing that this was going to happen against the father's wishes. There was no way to...
Makes your hair's gone in,
too late.
It?
There was no way to stop it. Brad, he made a will, he could have put in a non-provision clause, we could have given further advice around that. So the whole point of this show, if you're listening to me drone on, and I promise I'll shut up now, is if you're thinking, I think I should make a will, the hardest thing is to send us that text this morning. The hardest thing is to speak to the client care team now. Make one of them take a piece of pizza out of their mouth and answer the phone. But in all seriousness, that's the hardest thing, is that first step. After that, you'll find it dead easy, because you'll speak to Charlotte herself or you'll speak to one of her team, and you'll see that this is not complicated, it's not morbid, and you'll get something amazing at the end of it, which is your will. And more importantly, that means you don't have to worry about the government will. When you pass away, it should be your wishes that are followed, not a set of rules from 1925 that doesn't care about you or your family.
And you would be turning in your grave, wouldn't you, if you had, you know, you hadn't written a will, and then, and obviously I don't know what happens, but you're looking down and all your family have fallen out because that money is going to someone that they know you didn't want to have, or that piece of jewellery went to the wrong child, and they all knew that who it should have gone to. It's so easy, but it sadly makes it so complicated if you haven't got a will in place, and it could break up families, couldn't it?
And it is about that process of you getting exactly what you want for your family, but your family don't have to deal with it because you've written it all down.
They're distraught as it is, you know, emotions are so high, aren't they? It's one of the worst things ever, isn't it? So you are absolutely beside yourself, and then for you to be falling out because what you know should be happening isn't happening.
And this is what I mean about a will doesn't make a bereavement any better, but by it being there, because you did something so selfless, whether it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 2 days ago.
You're not doing it for you, are you?
No, but you will get something out of it.
Yeah.
Charlotte will tell you that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone I speak to at the end of a consultation always says, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Some people will know exactly what they want. Some people will need all your help.
Absolutely. Someone can come with all of the answers already known, which is great, but also you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to know any answers. No. That's our job, is to have that. It's just a conversation.
I think some people as well will think they haven't got anything without realising that actually they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's relative as well. Because, you know, what you've got is what you've got.
What is important,
You know, you might be sat in a £1 million house, but that's no more important than someone that's sat in a £100,000 house.
No, that's
your
so
house.
true. You
worked hard for it. You know, you went to work, you paid your taxes, what money you got left, paid the mortgage with interest, and then you got your house. Why would you want to put all that hard work at risk of it not going where you wanted it to go?
Or it might even be a family heirloom, might it, that's gone through the family that you know what you want to be passed on. It might be a piece of jewellery that's really
I think the important thing to stress this morning as well is all these conversations we're having. The viewers tonight, this morning, don't need to worry about any of that. They just need to know. When I say the hardest thing is to send the text or to pick up the phone, is we'll get to that. And we'll help you through all of that.
You talk through.
Yeah, because you might be sat there going, oh, I mean, Charlotte again will tell you that sometimes we panic when a client says, oh, you'll like me, mine's really simple. And it's like...
Is that panic station?
Never is.
Buckle up. And then, because again, it's your perception, isn't it? You know, my situation is going to be really simple. You're like, OK, right, let's think this through. And then you get another client who will say, oh, I hope you don't mind, mine's really complicated. Because in their mind, their situation might be complicated. But because this is what we do for a living...
You've seen it 1,000 times.
There isn't a scenario that we can't help you with.
We can always help, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll always be able to help.
And it's so affordable. If you're at home thinking, oh yeah, I do need to do a will, we will. I bet it'd be really expensive. I bet it'd be really complicated. None of that. You've just heard it's not complicated at all because you don't really need to know anything apart from you need to know you need that will in place. And price-wise, our prices are incredible.
And everybody needs it. We thought we didn't need a will.
Yeah, even as an individual person needs a will.
It's everyone, and it doesn't matter what age you are either.
No.
So if you want to go for the offer, the great offer that Simple Law are offering us with the will itself, a suggested retail price of £180 would be a great price. ShopOnTV exclusive offer price for you today is £89. You don't even have to pay that. You can pay just £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments, and you are getting in touch directly with Simple Law, and we'll run you through the contact details in just a moment.
And what you're doing tonight is securing that price, and that price, we might not be seeing these prices again. And split the cost. What do you spend on coffee? Honestly, it's so affordable. Lasting power of attorney, we will be going back into lasting power of attorney, which is truly so important. £325 is the regular price, £179 is your deal tonight, and you can split that over 4 payments, £44.75. Now, this is all about you being able to look after a loved one if perhaps they got dementia, they couldn't look after themselves, or perhaps they're in a terrible accident and couldn't deal with their finances, or actually that, you know, know, their health and well-being.
Yeah, just their general day-to-day living with the lasting power of attorney.
And again,
two different types, remember.
What you think will happen doesn't happen. If you think, well, it's my mum, of course they'll let me do whatever and sort mum's bills out and look after it. It's not the case unless you've got a lasting power of attorney. And then we have got the third option, which is a really good choice.
Yeah, this is the best value. It's the will and the lasting power of attorney. Suggested retail price of just over £500, £505. The Shop on TV exclusive offer price, less than half that at £249. And remember, these could be the last time we see these prices. So if you have been thinking about it, maybe now's the time to get started.
And it is just that first step, isn't it? It's so easy to get in touch.
Securing the deal.
All you're doing tonight before you're going off to bed or going out to work is securing that price and taking that first step, because sometimes that's the biggest thing. We keep putting that off, don't we? And then Christmas comes and you still haven't done what you planned to do, and then suddenly it's summer again. You think, oh God, I still didn't get that done, and then it's too late. You're taking that step, so you've got that peace of mind. You've done it, it's sorted, and it's so easy to get in touch, whether you get in touch on the website, whether you get in touch by phone or by text.
simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV if you are online. If you want to call the call centre, like we said, open right through till 3 a.m. The team are there, ready to go for you.
The team are fabulous.
And ready to take those calls, and you don't need any documentation. They're just there to secure the deal.
Don't need to go and find any pieces of paper or any information. All you need to say is, I'd like to take that deal on the will, please, and they'll get back in touch with you and sort out dates and times that are the right time.
0333 600 2600 is the number if you want to call the team right now. And finally, the easiest way to get in touch is to text.
Yeah, that's so simple. Perhaps you're just not in the mood to talk to anybody tonight. I love texting. I love the texting competitions. And though this isn't a competition, you will definitely win if you text Will tonight, because you're securing that deal. You're getting that peace of mind that what you want to happen to what you've worked so hard for goes to the ones you love. It actually does. So do use that text. You just text Will. It's as simple as that. But please make sure you do that whilst we've still got some of the books left, because not only are you securing the deal, you've also got a fabulous book. And this is all about what my family should know. And my goodness, this is information that you'd be hunting here, there and everywhere for, but it's all in one place.
Having everything in one place, your bank accounts, your pensions, it could be things like passwords, life policies that you can see there, passwords for your computers and your social media, and vehicle details. It can all be in that one place. The first 250 clients who secure the appointments will get that included.
And those
as
passwords, so important.
Oh, so important.
Even if it's just to get all those photos back that are on that phone. But actually, and it happened recently to somebody we knew, that there was some vital information on a tablet and nobody knew the password or the emails. You don't get letters now, so it's not pieces of paper we're looking for. It's probably on an email, and no one could get on it until luckily the grandson went, I know the password.
I play the games on there.
So yeah, it's all so important. I think everybody should have that.
It'll all be there in the book.
You can buy those books, and lots of people try to buy them, but you don't need to if you're securing that deal. And honestly, it's such an amazing book. So either get onto the website, either use the phones, text. You remember the number is 66777. Just text Will, or you can go through our website as well.
If you go to our website, there's a little homing button on our home page, ShopOnTV.co.uk. And when you click on there, it'll take you through, and it's very straightforward. It runs you through all the offers. If you change your mind which offer you want to go for, that's fine as well. And then when you scroll down, click on the Simple Law and scroll down, and you'll see it's just a few very simple, straightforward questions.
Even I can answer them.
Even you can answer them.
I passed that test. And those prices, remember, do take a photo of those prices and all the deals, because those prices, we don't think we'll be seeing those prices again. Sadly, everything is going up, so it could be your last opportunity to get these particular deals. We'll always get you the best deals we can, but sadly life is changing all the time, isn't it?
Certainly is. And remember, with Trustpilot, over 5,700 reviews on Trustpilot. We're going to share another one with you right now from Amanda. I have put off writing my will as it was out of my comfort zone. This is what we've said about a lot of people, so just kept putting it off. A friend recommended Simpler Law to me. So so glad he did, as it couldn't have been easier. Neil Jagger, who I dealt with, made the whole experience simple and explained every detail. Such a relief. My will is now done. Isn't that great?
I mean,
And that's the worry that most people have, I think, when it comes to wills. Price, like we always say, is one thing, but it's the worry of, oh, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, isn't it?
Doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing.
I think there's an outdated view that you go to sort of some kind of dingy law office and sit in a room,
really
surrounded by fusty
legal
books
and dust everywhere.
And everyone starts using legal terminology, and that's not what we do at all.
No.
We understand this might be the first time, it might be the only time that you make a will. So we make sure that it's right, we make sure that you understand it. So yeah, we try and bust the myth on affordability. Because of the size that we are and because of shows like this, we do want to reach as many people as we can, and that's why we are keeping these prices low. Unfortunately, as you said, there is a price review on the horizon. So if you are thinking about it, genuinely, now's the time. Definitely, strike now.
It's always now's the time, though, isn't it? Because we keep putting things off, don't we?
If you're watching this show now, I'm a big believer in things are meant to happen as well. Things happen for a reason. Perhaps the planets have aligned, and that doesn't mean that life's about to strike you down. So the weirdest reasons I've been given for I'm not making a will because I'm tempting fate is there's nothing tempting about it. But we'll plan for the smallest of things. We had to plan what time we were going to get on the train to come to the studio today because, that was something that's going to happen. Well, we know this is inevitable. We don't know when. Hopefully, it's many, many years down the road. But just plan for it now and then forget about it.
Yeah. I think sometimes we think, oh, well, I'm too young, I'll wait.
Yeah.
And there's not an age to a will, is there?
No, absolutely not. And we do hear that quite a lot, actually, especially with powers of attorney as well. It's all related to the elderly because we all like to think we're going to live to a ripe old age.
Possible,
yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, it's not always the case. And again, you don't always have to have, property. Anything you have, a family heirloom, cash, anything that you've worked really hard for, make sure it's going to the right person, whatever age you are, because there'll always be something that means something to you. And it doesn't always have to go to a loved one either. It could be a charity. We've spoken a lot about loved ones.
Okay,
It could be that you want to gift everything to a charity that you feel passionately about. It's just about you making that choice and making sure that what you want to happen actually does happen. Without making a will, you haven't got control over what happens. That's the bottom line.
No, it's taken away from you.
Yeah, and when you speak to families, and without exception, where there isn't a will, they wish there had been a will. Yeah. Because inevitably someone's saying, this isn't what my dad would have wanted, this isn't what my mum would have wanted, or, you made the point about, it's very, very common, very popular for mums to leave jewellery to the daughters, but if there are specific items, they remove that argument at an emotionally charged time and they say, well, no, this daughter's having the wedding ring, this daughter's having the engagement ring. That's the end of the argument, because it was there in black and white, mum made that decision and has probably spoken to them about it as well. Whereas if they were both wanting the wedding ring, it's
you can't imagine.
No, and these are small things, but they become massive things.
Of course.
But what's really important, just that really, small example I've given you there, it's personal.
Yeah.
There's nothing personal about the government will, and this is what we're trying to get across to people. The only way that what you want to happen is going to happen when you're no longer here is you have to take control and you have to make your will.
And it has to be a legal will, doesn't it? Because there are templates, and I know you told us once about a gentleman who had written it all down. Oh, what was it about? He wanted to leave it to a friend. Someone had really looked after him for years, and he wanted to leave it to a friend.
Oh, and he'd done his own template.
And he had written that down, I think, on paper.
He didn't sign it. So it was clear what his intentions were. He didn't have family in the UK.
That's right.
He had family outside of the UK, and
a friend
who did everything.
Decades and decades, decades. They even spoke about it. And they did the friends thing of, oh, I'm not bothered. But ultimately, he said, and he came to me and said that this is what he's done. I'm like, it's not signed. So he's died intestate, and the house has ended up going to a second cousin in Canada.
Who he doesn't.
And
probably barely
he's
knew.
never. Yeah.
So he thought he'd written a will, and sometimes if we do those templates, we think we've written a will. But
it was in like I don't know where he got it from. It was in like a blue plastic wallet with a clear front, and it was just. But he not had it signed, dated, and witnessed. It was, and even if he had, to be honest, the way it was written, it wouldn't have quite worked.
But that's devastating, isn't it? Because, like you always say, the wishes are there.
The sort of good part of it when they first contacted us was, he's got a will, like brilliant.
Great stuff.
Let's have a look at it. He's not got a will. And unfortunately, this happens quite a lot. Yeah. And the templates don't give you advice. because they can't. And if you've not got a, I could be really facetious. If you're not a qualified will writer, why are you writing a will?
No.
If I get a toothache, I don't try and pull my tooth. If my car breaks down, I don't.
No.
I might, as a man, I might lift the bonnet and go, yep, there's an engine there.
That deep intake of breath, but that's it. That's as far as it goes.
Just about pump a tyre up. But we've all got, you can only know what you know. And so this isn't a criticism. I'm ignorant of everything else outside of estate planning. When it comes to this, I like to think I know most of it. But outside of this, I don't really know anything else. Yeah. And I think that's true of everyone else outside of estate planning. So when you go to make a template, I genuinely, it baffles me that if you know that you need a will, please don't risk doing it yourself. And I will be harsh and just say, we will do a better job than you, because it's what we do day in, day out. Yeah. And you've still got to buy that template as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't waste your money.
All that expert advice is there.
No. It's so affordable, and you hand it all over. Honestly, there's so many.
I know all four of us are like, please.
We're terrible now. People have stopped inviting us to dinner parties because we're a bit like that. Have you got a will?
Well, on a personal note, I'll say this very quickly. I naively, 20 years ago, made a decision not to talk to my family and friends about it, because I thought they know what I do, they'll come to me. And then something happened that was unexpected and wasn't very nice, and it was worse because he didn't have his plans in place.
Oh, no.
And I went, I could have stopped that.
Yeah, you could have.
So now, personally, at parties and stuff, I'll say, 2 seconds, I'm not your friend for a minute. I go, right, my conscience is clear, you know where I am if you need me.
Told you. Yeah.
But that's part of the reason we do this show, is we don't know what the situation is of the people watching this morning. But what I can tell you is, I know for a fact that you do not want to pass away and let the government distribute your estate. You want to pass away and make sure that the people that you care about and everything you worked hard for goes to where you want it to go to at a time that's right for them. Definitely. You want to control it, and it's really easy to do, but the hardest thing for us to make it easy is to send us that text or pick up the phone. So please, if you're watching it now, stop the thinking part of it, and please just phone the office. You won't regret you did it.
Just get started.
And that government will is donkey's years old. Was actually written in
1925.
100 years ago.
And for us, we presumed, we've been together 33, 34 years. Obviously, everybody knew if one of us died, it would go to the other. But the government will, that would not happen for an instant, not even nearly, it wouldn't even have been a smidgen of a thought on the government will. And if you're at home, life is so different now. There's so many of us that are remarried, children from different partners, but you now live as a family. That gets really complicated, and could be a situation where only one of the spouse's children get the money. Honestly, if you're at home, whatever situation you're in, even if you're a single person on your own, if you haven't got it written down legally as a legal will, sadly it goes to that government will, and you will, if you can look down and see, absolutely kick yourself when you see the upset that can create.
It's literally all taken out of your hands, and that's why it's so important for you to get started, take that first step, as Ian always says.
Yeah, I want to be clear. This is we don't scaremonger. This is just facts, but we need people to understand, because it can be it's so easily fixed, the potential devastation. And it sounds melodramatic to say devastation, but as we just said, it's not unusual for families today to be a blended family, to be a dynamic family. That's not an unusual position now. But the rules that basically create the government will were made 100 years ago, when that family didn't exist. And so when it talks about marital status and when it talks about following your bloodline, it doesn't cater. There's nothing personal about it. So the only way to rid yourself of the government will, the only way, is to make your own will. And yes, truthfully, of course you can do a template if you wanted to try that yourself, but I've no idea why you would do that. And
not
the prices,
you've made it so affordable.
Yeah, exactly. Use a professional, take our advice, well, at least listen to our advice and decide how much of our advice you take it, but know at the end of it you're guaranteed to get a will that's for you. So again, I stress, if you're watching it tonight, I know the prices are going up as well, but that means there's a reason you're still listening to me drone on now. It's a message. Please, if you don't want to speak to the client care team tonight, just text the word will to 66777. We will call you back later this morning. But if you want to speak to the client care team, they're there till 3 o'clock. Someone will take your call now.
Yeah, and you don't. I was going to say, you don't need anything, do you? I think that's another thing people think. Well, have I got to have my birth certificate or anything?
All these
people are going,
pieces of paper
and people
out.
really do. And Charlotte, I'll tell you, because Charlotte deals with this every single day. People really do think, oh, mine's going to be too complicated. I don't know where to start. You don't need to worry about that. That's our job.
Yeah.
And you will know if you're happy at the end of the consultation or not. If you're not, ask for your money back. If you're happy at the end of the consultation, great. And 99.9% of clients are always happy at the end of the consultation. The 0.1 have probably spoken
They're
to
relieved,
Charlotte.
aren't they? That they've...
You've just got to ignore him, it's fine.
Absolutely.
Does, yeah.
We've had a lovely message here, just to, saying what we've been talking about. Might get upset, actually. Just to remind everyone, please do your will now. My husband passed away so unexpected. He had lots of things which we had talked about, and then lots of arguments. It's so sad. I did have all his things as I was his wife, but I have now done my will. She's put, please, please do it. My husband was only 55. Gosh. But I have now done my will, and it's a weight off my mind. She says, don't leave it till tomorrow, as tomorrow never comes. Oh. I love the programme, and that's from Ellie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellie. Sending lots of love, lots of love to Ellie.
We don't know what's around the corner, do we? You just really don't know what's around the corner.
I'm so relieved when you were getting upset then. I thought, I can't cry on live TV. Oh. That's bittersweet. That's bittersweet because obviously she's lost her husband unexpectedly.
That's it.
But she's done something brilliant now for the rest of her family. So she's done something.
She could see the upset that he hadn't written a will and the upset he could have caused, and it's made her realise that she has to write that will.
I'm glad that ended the way it was going to end, because when you were nearly getting upset, I'm thinking, I'm ugly without crying. We don't want ugly crying on live TV.
I think when you've gone through a bereavement, it's just to think of the extra upset because you didn't.
Oh my goodness!
You didn't write a will.
I don't even want to imagine it.
It's so horrible because the last thing you want to do is fall out as a family, but sadly, it can cause that, can't it? If you haven't.
That's why we always say it's selfless, because you almost stop those fights happening, and people don't intend to fight, and people say things when emotions are high and stuff like that. So again, it's this selfless act. You will get something out of it, because it's quite cathartic for our clients, because at the end of it, as Charlotte said a number of times this morning, there's no one finishes a consultation and says, oh, I wish I'd not done that. It's the complete opposite. I'm glad I've done that. And sometimes they've learned something along the way, or realised, my goodness, that would have been an absolute that would have been an absolute mess. I can't believe that.
Because we so don't know what happens. No. I think exactly chatting to you and you asking all the right questions.
And it's so important that you're dealing with a specialist, and you do specialise, don't you? This is all you do. I love how you always explain it. You don't do this, that, and the other.
I would trust Charlotte in my estate planning all day long. Outside of that, I won't trust her with a thing.
That's a fair comment, actually.
Charlotte would agree.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But that's because, our team, led by Charlotte, are really highly trained, but obviously in a specific area of the law, and it's estate planning. So you wouldn't speak to us about a divorce, you wouldn't speak to us about a personal injury claim, or a boundary dispute. You wouldn't come to us for any other part of the law other than this. We made that decision decades ago. We almost would rather be a specialist of one area of law rather than a jack of all trades and master of none.
So this is what you specialise, so all your services are around that same area?
Yeah, I mean, that's not an exhaustive list that's on the screen, but you see it starts with wills and estate planning. That's at the heart of what we do. The lasting power of attorney ties into that, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about that as the show goes on. When we talk about trusts, I mean, our group, our legal group actually manages about £600 million of assets for our clients, so that's people that have set up trusts, that have guaranteed that money is now going to pass on to the beneficiaries. That's a huge thing for our clients.
Absolutely.
The core protection application is obviously devastating when we get those, because that means someone's lost capacity without a lasting power of attorney. So we help our clients as much as we can. But
we are going to go into that lasting power of attorney.
But we're beholden to the court. And things like the conveyancing and property transactions and even the bereavement service, it all means that we don't have to outsource any work.
Fabulous,
It's all within your company.
So we're responsible for the quality of the work, we're responsible for how quickly we get those documents to you, and that's really important to us. So we're not beholden to any third parties. Everything we do in-house is protected by a £5 million professional indemnity insurance policy. So if we make a mistake, you and or your beneficiaries are protected. And touch wood, we've never had a claim on our insurance policy. Part of that is because of how good people like Charlotte and her team are, and that also goes to the top. Our head of legal is a lady called Helen Clade, and she's fully STEP qualified, and basically, you know the letters you can have after your name. I give out a little business card. Helen has to hand out a booklet. That's how qualified she is. But all joking aside, you know, and that from the top all the way through, we put the client at the heart of what we do because we know how important this is. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we have no business without our clients, but we know that what we're doing for our clients is amazing. But we can only do it for you if you send us the text or pick up the phone. So please. Take that all important first.
And when you read those 5-star reviews, you really do understand how important it is to them to do the right thing for you and by you. Details on the screen right now for the will. We are going to go back into lasting a power of attorney because I think a lot of people don't know what a lasting power of attorney is. No, I think will-wise, we know what a will is, and please do jump on the phones, get onto the website, or go onto our website and just click onto Simpler Law or text. We'll give you the details just very quickly. You can see the prices again. So will-wise, £89, which you can split over 4 payments, which makes it so affordable.
Well, it's so affordable anyway, with a suggested retail of 180 down to 89.
You'd think it'd be so much more than that, wouldn't you?
Well, we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Down to 22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
When you've got such knowledge, you know, that you're dealing with Simpler Law, you'd expect it to be so much more. And 22.25. You spend more than that probably on coffee.
Easily. In a week, probably, if you have one every day. So then you go to your lasting power of attorney, which we are going to cover once again in just a couple of moments. If you don't know what that is or you've heard of it and you think, oh, do I need that? Stay tuned and listen to what Ian and Charlotte have got to say to us. If you do want to go for the lasting power of attorney, a £325 suggested retail price, down to £179. Remember, this could be the last time we see these prices because everything is subject to going up at the minute, isn't it? So £44.75 on your first of 4 payments if you take advantage of that interest-free option. But the best option of all, the best value, is if you go for the will and the LPA, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's better than half price. Should be £505, £249, which again, you've got the opportunity to split that cost over those 4 payments. So £62.25 is all you're spending. We've been trying to go to the theatre just recently. We can't get tickets for that price. Everything is so expensive, and you are making sure that your will and your lasting power of attorney is actually sorted. Don't worry if you do the will, and then as we chat about the lasting power of attorney, think, oh, I wish I'd done the 2 together. You can talk to the team when they get back in touch, say, well, actually, I'd like to add on the lasting power of attorney. They will sort that for you. Well, I'm saying that. I'm sure they will sort that. They will definitely.
Is she making that up?
To be fair, we've definitely got to do that.
You've got to now,
yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head. The important thing is to secure the deal tonight, because that's you making that first step as well. You don't need to know anything other than that tonight. If you secure that deal, basically what you end up with at the end, as a minimum, is guaranteed to be a will for you.
Yeah.
As our advice is given throughout, we might not have to give any advice. It all depends. But basically, it's up to you whether you take all of our advice, some of it, or absolutely none of it. But we're duty bound to give you advice as we go along, because that's why you're using us. Yeah. And at the end of it, you'll still get what you want. But yeah, if someone phones up and says, well, actually, I only did the will, but yeah, can I have the lasting power of attorney? Of course, we're going to do the lasting power. We'll know that you came through the show because obviously you've either spoken to us tonight, and please, the team, Charlotte's team, are there tonight until 3 o'clock this morning. Or if you don't want to speak to us, just send the word will. Just text the word will to 66777. We will call you back later. So we'll know you've come from the show. But ultimately, you will only get the documents that you're happy with and that you've instructed us to draft. If that's a will, brilliant. If that's the will and lasting powers of attorney, great. But you'll get what you ask us to do.
Well, we did the lasting power of attorney for my mum with Simpler Law. Before we met them, before we worked with them here on ShopOnTV, just made it so simple. But we went, because there's 2 lasting powers of attorney, which I didn't know at the time. So we went to discuss really the financial side of things. But again, when we sat down and really spoke about things, and this is the great thing, you don't need to know anything. It's a sit-down chat, and the team really do get out of you what they need to know. And then, oh, well, actually, there's a health side to lasting power of attorney as well. And we're like, well, we definitely need to do both, and that's what we did. So if you do sort of change them, I think I wish I could add one on, and please do, because whilst you've actually taken that first step to make that step to get things in place, do everything that you need to do.
We've covered the offers. Let's show you once again how to get in touch, because that's really simple. It's really straightforward. 3 different ways just here. You can go to the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can go to the call centre. The team are there right through to 3 a.m. as we were saying, working hard, I would think, this morning. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number if you want to get in touch, and you don't need any documentation. It's just about securing the deal tonight so that they can then start the appointment process. If you do want to text, you can text from your phone. If your phone's right there by you, you don't want to speak to anyone right now, just text the word WILL to 66777.
And that's so simple.
Yeah, and they won't phone you back straight away. They won't phone you back first thing in the morning. It'll be after 11 o'clock in the morning.
Sometimes, bizarrely, even though we do the job that we do worry about talking to people on the phone. I know it's ridiculous. You are. Sean is worse than me. And it's like, you ring them, you ring them. I'm not going to ring them, you ring them.
You ring them.
So if you just
all
text,
the grown-up stuff
then
you have to do.
that's it. Then you've done your piece, and then the team will get back in touch with you. And that is so simple. I'm always really busy, the text, as is the phones. So please do make sure you just get in contact. You're just securing those deals tonight. And of course, if you're one of the first 250 people, you will get this fabulous book as well, which we'll go into a bit more detail about that. It's putting in all your information that people need. It's what your family needs to know if you do pass. It's all in that one book, which is brilliant. But we're moving on now.
We are going to talk about lasting power of attorney. And Charlotte, there are 2 different types, like Hayley just mentioned, aren't there?
Yes, so there's one which is property and financial affairs, which this one is just a power of attorney. To go over that again, is where you nominate who you trust to make those decisions for you. So property and financial affairs is where that person that you trust can access your bank accounts, so they can pay any bills that you've got, they can claim your pensions, they can benefits as well if you're receiving any benefits.
Right.
They can manage your property, so if they need to sell it for any reason, or if you've got rental properties, they can manage those as well. Even managing investments as well, if you've got any of those. Anything to do with your financial part of your estate, they can become you in that scenario.
So they make all your decisions financially with your blessing, and you choose the exact person.
Exactly. So this is the beauty of putting these documents in place, because if you haven't done that, that person can't do that for you.
And the misconception is, because I look after Mum and have done for years, and
all you sort out all the bills and stuff.
Everybody would know in our family that's fine. So I would presume that if my mum wasn't able to look after the things herself because she's become poorly or been in an accident, that obviously people would let me deal with things, but it's not the case, is it?
No, unfortunately not. An assumption is, again, a really big misconception with powers of attorney, because you've got to think, if you called up to someone's bank, or bills, electric bills, if you contact that company, the first question they ask you is, are you the account holder? And if you're not the account holder, that's it. You don't get to go any further.
It's so true. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why someone has capacity.
I had a phone call today actually for Mum, and I said, "Oh no, you can talk to me," and they were like, "No, we can't."
Yeah, no, you can't, and especially if that person's vulnerable. If you've lost your capacity and you're a vulnerable adult, the walls are even higher.
Yeah.
So
companies and financial institutions will be sympathetic for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Is the truth of it. They'll be sorry for your situation, but there's no one can help you.
But they're doing what they have to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, how frustrated or annoyed or angry would any of us be if we found out that someone had just walked in and accessed our data or our finances without...
And if you think about it, the truth is, obviously I am Mum's daughter, but how do they know that I'm a good daughter,
this
that
is the thing.
what I'm going to do is the right thing?
And you can nominate whoever you want to be your
Exactly.
power of
This is,
attorney.
again, having the choice. It can be family, it can be a friend, you can have more than one. It doesn't just have to be one specific person. It's all about having that choice and putting that in place. So it's someone that you trust to do it.
And Leslie was just saying, and this is a really good point, can you have more than one person as you can?
Absolutely, you can have more than one person.
We can talk to you about how they can act as well, because there's certain ways that they can act. There's different ways that they can act jointly and severally, and we'll talk through how you want them to... it's basically, again, it's your document.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, everyone's,
decision.
yeah, your decision. So all we do is we give you the advice.
Yeah.
We tell you what the options are, and then you work out what's best for you, and we'll help you do that. But just always bear in mind, there's no agenda from us because it's not our document. It's your document, so we make sure it's right for you. And that's the important thing, is it's your document. You've named the people that you trust to act as your attorneys.
And if you haven't got lasting power of attorney, what then happens? So I haven't got it. I want to sort mum's bills out and sort a pension out and sort all those things out. What do I then do?
It was like a pain across my chest.
Well,
as
you
if
know,
it-
our director Paul heard a big, a big intake of breath.
well-
we were all a bit worried then. We were,
No, so, hang on. Anyone know CPR? This would be an interesting thing on
David?
ITV. The irony. So all joking aside, no, the awful answer to your question, going back a little bit, is it sounds a bit facetious. You just hope that if you've not got a lasting power of attorney, you've got to hope that nothing goes wrong. Because unfortunately, if you do lose capacity through illness or accident, the only way that your family can then help and manage your affairs is they have to apply for something called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. And again, this isn't one of those, there's lots of different options for your family members. That's it. There's only one option, and it's applying for a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. This is a really long-winded legal process that costs an absolute fortune and takes an absolute age.
and we've got some details, I think, of the cost it actually it will incur if you have to do this.
Our exclusive offers, it's £179 for just one lasting power of attorney, whichever type you choose.
Yeah.
The actual application fees you see there, just to apply if you did it yourself, is £408. The assessment is actually an assessment on you to see if you are the right person. You mentioned, am I a good daughter? Are you a good, if you went to the Court of Protection, Sean quite rightly is shaking his head.
Oh, it's shocking. Oh,
They may,
terrible.
She's the best.
they may
She may
ask for a hearing, that's £494, and then there's a supervision fee, because the court then, if you are granted the deputyship, the court then supervise your spending. So there's a supervision fee of £320. That's an annual, that's an ongoing payment as well.
Gosh.
And there's plenty of stories out there, there's plenty of videos, testimonials of people saying they've gone through this process and how awful it is.
And that tallied up well over £1,000, £1,000.
And that's if you do it yourself.
That's without professional advice.
That's without using a company like ours, without using a solicitor, without using someone else who might know the court system. So it runs into thousands. Conservatively, it's £4,000 or £5,000 by the time you finish if you use a professional. No, it's ridiculous amounts.
And you've got to find that money for a start.
Yeah, because you can't use
You
the
can't
person.
So that's got to be
Exactly,
your
yeah.
money.
And the catch-22 is, without getting the deputyship order, you can't get the money, and without getting the deputyship order, you can't get.
Yeah.
And all the while,
If you haven't got the money.
and in all seriousness, all the while, all you want to do is care for your loved
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
But actually, you're having to deal with this over there.
And you're still going through the upset that they're poorly or they've been in an accident. And you were saying time, so that's not instant. We're not going to find out in a month that we can then control things.
We're really good because we know what we're doing if we're engaged to do it, and it's still taking 9 to 12 months to get through the court, because we're at the mercy of how quickly the court goes through the applications, and there are delays. It's well
So
documented.
you could have lost that loved one by the time before it's even been sorted.
This is probably the darkest part of the show, because sadly this is really awful, because in the same way, everything's avoidable if you plan, which is why we do these shows. Please plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah.
In the nicest possible way. This is going to sound really silly now. I want it to be a waste of money.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
My colleagues hate when I say that, and I get it, but I want it to be a waste
Yeah.
of money. I want you to put a lasting power of attorney in place, and then 25, 30 years, 40 years from now go, oh,
Didn't need that.
never needed that. That meant you had your
Great.
health. Great.
Great.
But if life threw you a curveball, I promise you, your family, your loved ones will be like, I'm so glad Dad did that. I'm so glad Mum did that. Like, you're helping your mum now, which is great, and she's got capacity now. Touch wood, she'll never need to, or you'll never need to use those LPAs, register them with the OPG and have that authority. But if life did throw that curveball,
We know it's there.
you know it's there. And so
It's a
an
peace of
awful
mind,
situation is not made worse.
That's
Peace of
exactly
mind.
it. Peace of
And like you
mind,
said earlier, we insure everything else, don't we?
But
Everything.
And you also say it's not an insurance
I was talking to her.
policy,
I've never had pets. I've never really grown up with pets. So, you know, there are people who've had dogs their entire life, and I get that. And I was talking to a lady who got 2 dogs, and my mind was blown. She was paying £320 a month
pet
insurance.
Yeah.
And that's because there've been some claims that the dogs were a bit older. But of course, you know, she loves her dogs, so she's insured her dogs. But I'm like, well, don't you love each other? Like, you're paying £320 a month.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about 179 one-off payment or 4 payments.
That's a good point
of
to make, actually. All these payments are one-off payments.
One-off payments, and if you do the interest-free over the 4 payments, they still finish after the 4 months. So, you know, again, being a little bit crass, but an LPA is equivalent like £1.50 a day.
God.
And you're obviously a coffee drinker like me. We won't mention the establishments, but I'm like, I'm not going to buy one today. It's just a waste of money.
I can't believe how much they are.
Yeah. It's too easy without tap.
Like, it's water and coffee. How can it be so expensive?
I'm a moron. We've got a kettle in the office.
Yeah.
All I have
It
to do is
still
walk
comes
up the
through.
bush. Still come through. Morning.
And at home.
Not so much at home, but no. But look, and so we should spend money on what we want to spend money on, and people don't think that they want to spend money on a will. They don't want to spend money on a lasting power of attorney. But if we could be cheesy for a second, if you had a crystal ball and you could see the future, and certainly with regards to lasting power of attorney, which is what we're focusing on at the moment, and you saw life throw you that curveball and saw your family having to deal with the court protection, having to pay thousands of pounds, having all this additional stress in addition to your illness, you wouldn't hesitate to come back now and say, oh, I'll give you £44 over 4 months.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's true. I think it's easy, isn't it? You can go to a car garage and look at a car and see all the benefits of it and be like, oh, this is amazing, I'm going to buy this car right now. But you're maybe not going to see the benefits of your will because you will have passed away, but you're going to know that's in place.
Your family and your loved ones benefit from these things.
Of course. Now, we've only covered one of the LPAs because there are actually 2, aren't there?
Yes.
So the first one is financial as such, but the second one is all about your health.
Yes, so health and welfare. So a lot of people see the benefits more of the financial because it's practical.
We came for that.
Exactly,
But then as soon as you explained the other, I was like, gosh, that might, to me, probably more important.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's a lot more personal, the health and welfare. It's about discussing, you know, where you're living. So again, you've nominated that person that you trust, whether it be a friend or family member, to make those decisions for you. So if they want you to be at home with them, they can make that choice. If they wish to care for you, they can discuss any medication that you may be receiving, even down to things that may seem trivial, but what you're eating and what you're wearing. We mentioned earlier in the show, if you're a vegetarian, no one will know that apart from your loved ones or your friends that are close to you. So giving them that power allows them to honour your wishes. Whereas if you don't have that document in place, they can't do that.
No.
So they can't make that decision for you at all. And why risk that?
No.
If that's something that's important to you,
The care system
why
and
risk
local
it?
authorities, the institutions will, you know, let's not paint a bad picture, but we all know that it's potluck where you go. And they will hopefully listen to family members, but they've got no obligation to.
No.
But if you're lasting power of attorney, for all intents and purposes, you are that person's voice, so they have to listen to you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the big difference, whether it be financial or whether it be health and welfare. But
I felt I had to get both, or we had to get both.
They're incredibly different.
Yeah.
The financial thing makes sense because people understand bills need paying and money still needs to move. The health and welfare one's really interesting because you realise when someone close to you is ill that money becomes irrelevant, that the money side of it just needs to keep working. But actually now, what do I do that's right for my loved one? Should we bring them home to be with us? You know, what do we do with it sounds awful, what do we do with them? But without the health and welfare one, you don't have
Out of your control.
You don't have that. You've not been given the power to make those decisions.
You haven't got the choice, have you?
And that's when you hear the horror stories of nurses getting arrested because they tried to bring their mum out of care
That was in the
Christmas
paper
Day.
for Christmas, wasn't it? She was just bringing her out Christmas Day, I think,
Hundreds of these stories that are all, again, everything we talk about this morning is all avoidable with a phone call. That's why we do these shows.
And so affordable. So affordable. If you're at home and you're thinking, you know, it's going to be expensive, it really isn't. We're seeing the costs that it can be to try and sort things out, but actually if you've put things in place now, you've got that peace of mind that that's all you needed to have spent. You've spent it and it's all sorted. And perhaps we could look at those prices just one more time. If you are thinking about the will on its own, should be £180, and that's a lot less than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be hundreds of pounds.
That was one of the initial things I think that put us off, and alongside.
You've got all this legal knowledge. You think it's going to cost a fortune, but even at 180, I would be quite happy and pay it time and time again. £89.
Exclusive
for this.
Shop on TV offer price of £89, and Simple Law are offering you 4 interest-free payments, as you can see there, just £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments if you want to go for the will.
And that's better than half price.
Again, it is just about securing the deals and getting started.
Yeah, that's all you're doing tonight. Get in touch because you secure these deals. You will also get a brilliant book which we'll talk you through, but don't miss out on these prices. We do think this is possibly the last time we get these prices because sadly everything is going up. Lasting power of attorney, we've just spoken about that. It should be £325, £179 with us tonight, and you can split that to 4 payments of £44.75. If you are in Scotland, it's slightly different. You get the 2 lasting powers of attorneys in a joint sort of deal, but you can talk to, of course, Simpler Law about that. They deal, of course, with Scotland and here in the Britain as well. And then you have got the will and lasting power of attorney, and you've got that at £505, and you can see there, I know I said that wrong, you can see there we've got that at half price as well. £249 is your deal. I was thinking that hard and I thought I'm going to get it wrong.
I love
and
that
then
you just excluded Scotland from Britain.
I didn't mean that at all. And then those 4 payments of £62.25. So you're splitting that over those 4 payments. I knew I got it wrong.
Don't forget, the first 250 clients will also receive that free What My Family Should Know book. It's worth £25. It's where you keep all of your financial details so that it's all in one place. So it's pensions, bank accounts, it's things like passwords for your computer and your phone.
And that's so important.
So
you don't realise how important a password to a computer can be, because it used to be everything was sent by post, so perhaps you're looking for pieces of paper, you're looking for letters and information, but actually so much on email now. There could be a really important email but you can't get onto that tablet, or it might just be sentimental. It could be photographs, and perhaps you really want those photos. They had some great photos of the family but you can't get onto there. But it could be pensions that you had no idea they had a pension from that company. You never knew they worked for that company. Everything you need to know, and I do swear that everybody should have one of these books, and lots of people try to buy them, but the first 250 people that secure the deal will actually get one of these completely free. And I think as soon as you get into sort of working life, I think we should instantly get given one of those books because it just makes things so easy. There's nothing worse than trying to find where all the secret areas are, where all the information
hunting
is.
round for everything. First 250 people who secure the offer will get one of those books this evening. Easy to get in touch as well, remember, so straightforward. 3 different ways directly, so you can go direct to the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the call centre and the team are there right through until 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600, but the most popular way, and again it has been tonight, is to just send a text.
Yeah, absolutely. The team are amazing. If you want to ask them a couple of questions you can, but it's no questions really tonight. It's just getting in touch and they'll get back to you. But if you really just don't want to talk to anybody, sometimes I think we're a bit shy, aren't we? Just text Will to 66777 and that's all you need to do. And by texting Will, I love these. I always think hopefully someone's going to ring me tomorrow. I'm going to win £135,000 because I text win. But text Will and you will win, because you will actually have taken that first step that sometimes we've put off time and time again. Perhaps you've been thinking for the last 2 years, I must write a will. We do, don't we?
I'll get round to it. I'll get round. I'll do it tomorrow.
Christmas
I'll do it
comes,
next week.
Spring comes. Where did the summer go? And all of a sudden you still haven't done that will, and then suddenly it's too late.
You said the other day.
It's that first step. Just by texting Will, you've secured that deal and you've taken that really important first step.
We said the other day, I can't believe it's the middle of September, could we?
I walked into a supermarket and the seasonal aisle has appeared.
A Christmas aisle.
I was like, hey.
Chocolates.
How did that happen? Again, it's crazy, isn't it? How quick everything
The years
happens.
just fly by, don't they? And we never get the things done that are important. But actually, a will and lasting power of attorney are the most important things to get done.
And we're going to start again, if you've just joined us, we're going to talk about writing a will and some of the misconceptions. I think we should start with, Charlotte, because there's so many misconceptions when it comes to will writing. Like, we thought naturally, because we'd been together such a long time, we'd naturally inherit common law spouses, but there's no such thing as that, is there?
No, there isn't. Assumption is a really big misconception with wills, because you don't wake up in the morning and think, what happens if I don't have a will in place?
No.
You just think, oh, my family know what I'd want to happen, so it's going to happen. But unfortunately, that's not the case. If you don't have a will in place, it follows what's called the government will. Well, it's called rules of intestacy. We call it the government will. But it's essentially you've got a will in place, whether you like to think you have or not. So it's so important to make that choice and put it in place. And hopefully we've shown today that it's affordable as well. A lot of people might think, I can't afford to do a will, but we can break it down for you as well over 4 interest-free payments. So all you have to do is pick up the phone. You don't need to have any answers today. It is just about making that first step, and we'll lead you through that process.
That's all you have to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and you are experts. That's the main thing to
Charlotte.
You got there before me.
Charlotte. Yeah, this is literally all we do, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. You know, I mean it in a positive sense, that you wouldn't come to us for anything else. But when it comes to protecting your assets, protecting your family, protecting you, making sure that what you want to happen is going to happen, wresting control away from the government will and making sure you've got the right documents in place for you, done correctly, professionally drafted, professionally bound, our advice is insured, then we help make sure that they're attested correctly, which is a posh way of saying signed, dated and witnessed correctly. All that service is what we provide, because that's what we specialise in. So at the end of the process, what you get is your will that's bespoke to your situation, and that's invaluable. And we don't mess that up, because that's all we do. So, you know, Charlotte and her team have seen every scenario. We've got over 200,000 satisfied clients. I'm very proud of the 5-star Trustpilot ratings that we're getting. Not someone taking time out of their day, and yes, Charlotte's head will keep inflating, but it's nice when you see a client very rarely says simple law were good. They'll say that Charlotte was good, or Jack was good.
Yeah, they do mention everyone by name.
Kim was good, you know.
And when we talk about reviews, people are so quick to write a negative review, but positive reviews, it's a lot more effort. And you've got so many of those positive reviews with those real positive name mentions,
personal,
like Ian was saying.
Because you become friends, really.
Yeah, you do.
And Charlotte will understand that. Because you do. Oh,
unbelievable.
You sit down, you chat, and all of a sudden you feel like you really do know each other.
This is the thing, it's going at your pace, and sometimes that is more time. And when you're spending that time and you're going so in depth about someone's life, you are building a friendship in a way. Yeah. It is a nice conversation to have. So it's nice to see when you get these name trust.
Said you were very professional and explained thoroughly each stage, and it's really explained simply. So if you're like me and you're frightened of anything to do with law, it's just explained so simply. It's so easy. Making sure it was firstly what I wanted, and then I also understood any advice that she gave me. Excellent service. And that's really important, because things like this do frighten me. I don't know why. When you talk about law,
it's legal, isn't it?
I'm like, you know, I'm guilty.
I've done it as well.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful Charles left that, not just a big Charlotte, but that he's actually captured it perfectly, that this is your will. We'll give you advice, you know, but we're always guided by you. I always say when we're speaking that as a professional company we have all the questions, but the clients have all the answers, because it's their will, you know. And the reason it's conversational is because we know what we're doing, and we want you to be happy and understand what we're doing. We'll only produce documents for you when you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us, and you're happy with the advice that we've given you. If you're not happy, just ask us for your money back.
Yeah.
But everyone's happy at the end of it, because no one regrets doing this.
I felt I could ask any question. I didn't think any question was foolish. And even afterwards, I felt I could
when you asked who scored a hat-trick in the 1966 World Cup, that's not really relevant.
The kind of question.
Not really relevant to what we're doing, Haley, but we'll answer it.
Yeah.
You know, if we can
we'll
help.
find out.
We will.
I would have emailed that question. I'd plenty of time to see. But I did feel I could email as well. You know, oh, I forgot to ask that. And I know everything that you put together was exactly right for for us sort of thing.
And it doesn't just end at the consultation. We support you at every stage. If you've ever got a question, you can always get back in touch. It's not just the consultation's done and that's it. We'll support you all the way through, so you can always get back in touch with your consultant.
And will the client, sorry to interrupt, will the client always deal with the same
yeah,
consultant?
absolutely.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
Right, that's great as
and
well,
you can either call in back into us, or we'll call you back if we're not available at that point. We'll always get back in touch with you.
Great.
Because it's important. It needs to be right for you. You're taking that first step, pick up the phone, make that step, and we'll do all the rest for you.
And I think we should go back to, again, that if you haven't got a will, if you haven't written a will, that what you think happens doesn't happen. Because I think lots of us, they will think in the back of our mind, yeah, I should do a will really, but you know, I've said to the kids what I want to happen, so it'll be fine if I haven't written the will. You know, we've discussed it, we've sat down and chatted about it, and you know, they know what should happen. Legally, unless it's legally written down,
in a legally binding document
it's
like your will.
completely different what happens to what you imagine.
Well, yeah.
And especially now our lives are so different, Charlotte, because we have got so many people. It doesn't matter what situation you're in, whether you're single or whether you're married, but we've got now a lot of married couples that have been married before, have children from other partners, but now live as a family. That gets very complicated if you haven't got a will written, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So we see a lot of blended families now, and obviously if you've put a will in place, you can make your wishes clear. But as we've seen with what's called the rules of intestacy, that's not the case. So for argument's sake, if you've got husband and wife and there is no will, but they've brought up children from previous relationships, they see themselves as a family. So
of course, yeah.
The
children,
the kids see themselves as brothers and sisters.
Exactly, yeah, there's no dispute with that. But if you haven't got a will in place, the first question the government will ask you is, are you married? So yes. So it will pass between spouses to a certain amount, but for argument's sake, it passes. Yeah, it passes between spouses. So husband's passed away, it's gone over to wife. Second question, if wife's then passed away, are you married? No. Have you got children? Yes, but that only accounts for biological children. So although she may have, obviously, the children from her husband as well that she sees as her own, it's only going to be bloodline children that receive that inheritance. And this is where you then start to see family disputes.
Of course, yeah.
Because, again, if
they all saw it as their whole family, didn't
absolutely,
they?
and again, your wishes haven't been met.
Yeah.
And all it would have taken was for you to send a text.
But they presumed.
Pick up the phone, yeah. And just get more information on it.
Yeah.
Have that conversation with us,
yeah.
and we can give you those answers if you're not sure of them, because it's so important to make sure your wishes are clear.
Yeah.
And it's not just money, is it? I think some people might think, well, I haven't really got anything. I don't really own. I haven't got loads of money. What would I put into a will? Everybody's got something, haven't they?
So much more than that. It's not just about where you want your assets to go. It could be the age you want children to inherit at. It could be guardianship within your will.
Yeah.
So who you like to care for your children.
Because in a scenario where, awfully, if both parents died and you didn't have a will in place, what happens then?
So again, if you've got a will, great, because you've nominated a guardian that you trust.
Right.
If you haven't, then you're relying on the right person to step forward. But who is that right person?
And more than one person might step forward, might they?
It happens. It's not unusual for both sides of the family to say, and then it's left to a court. I think the heartbreaking thing is someone that's never met you, never met your children, never met your family. They're going to make that decision when everyone who's involved might already know what your decision was verbally. It might have spoken about it openly. Unfortunately, it's not enough to have a pint with your best mate down the pub saying if the worst happened, don't assume that godparents or any other kind of religious connotation. Because a lot of people say, oh, they would automatically go to godparents. That's a religious thing. It's not a legal thing. So it has to be done legally.
Yeah.
And you can. A will isn't just about passing on tangible assets like houses and money and jewellery. You can bequeath what's called your parental responsibility through a guardianship clause. So you can say, if God forbid we both weren't here, we would want this couple or this person to be the guardians of our children, you know, and that's it.
It's
you've
the
done
choice again, isn't it? It's making
you've made it clear. So again, you've not made that awful situation any better. But you've definitely not made it worse, because now the kids are where you wanted them to be as well. I mean, Jeannie and I'm really lucky. I've got a gorgeous wife. I've got two great boys. Zach's just turned 15. My youngest JJ turns 13 in November. but we know who our guardians are. They're obviously documented in the will, and whilst I don't want to think about not seeing my boys grow up, I've got that little peace of mind knowing that if the worst did happen to me and Junie,
they'll be okay.
Our guardians know about it. The boys will go where we want them to go and be brought up by people that have got the same values as us and love the boys as much as not as much as us, but love the boys. But it's going to the right. It bothers me when I talk about it because I don't want to think about it. But I've done as much as I can for my children, which is make sure that they're going to the right place.
Yeah.
And not creating any dramas.
I think the thing with wills, initially people think, oh well, it's just about my money. But with a will, you
need to be wealthy to do a will.
So much more.
So much more.
It's so much more than just your monetary things.
And some people's children are pets, aren't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, more so than their children sometimes.
Sometimes they go, yeah, just make sure our Mark gets the house. And now, right, let me talk about Toby the dog. I want this, and there's 27 conditions around how Toby, and you're like,
that's me.
Okay. And who's Mark again? Who's your son? Right.
Toby's the dog.
But
it is
we have testamentary freedom in the UK. We're free to choose what we want to do. But if you don't choose to do that, if you don't choose to look after Toby, then no one's going to do it for you. And the government will doesn't care about your pets. The government will, truthfully, doesn't care about your children. It's a default position to distribute your estate.
Yes, no.
It's a series of yes/no questions. And I think what I've learned over the last sort of 25 years of doing this is we do talk about assumptions and presumptions and misconceptions. And I think what I've learned over the last quarter of a century, if I've learned anything, I think actually when clients assume something, it's not an assumption. I think it's a wish.
Yeah.
I think it's a hope. I think they're just sat there going, well, I'm sure everything will be okay. I'm sure all our children, I'm sure it'll sort itself out. And the reason we do these shows isn't to scare people, it's to educate them. And I don't mean that to sound patronising, but it's to say, if you don't take control, no one else is going to do that for you. So if you're still listening to me droning on at this early hour of the morning, there's a reason you're listening. Do something amazing for yourself and your family. Text the word will to 66777. We will call you back later. Or phone 0333 600 2600 now. You'll get through to one of Charlotte's team now. And you'll not regret doing that, and you will have done something amazing because you'll have taken control. You do not want the government will. But unfortunately, there's so many people out there who are just hoping that everything's going to be okay. Slash assuming, I'm sure it'll be fine. And you get some people who are a bit flippant, well, I'll be dead anyway.
They don't mean that, though.
No, let me ask you this. Whilst you're alive, if I took everything off you and didn't give it to your child and gave it to someone else, how would you feel about that? You'd be unhappy. So let's make sure that we get it right. And it's not expensive and it's not difficult. So don't let those be obstacles. And if you hate what we do, just say, do you know what, I don't like what you're doing. I'll have my money back, please, and we'll give you your money back.
Brilliant.
But no one hates what they do because they get through to someone like Charlotte.
Yeah. And when they do get, like if they get through tonight to the call centre, they don't need any documentation. It's literally securing the deal.
It's just securing the deal for today. You don't even need to have the answers when you come to the consultation if you don't have them.
No. Great.
That's what we're there for, exactly. It's a hand-holding service. We'll take you all the way through from start to finish at your pace, the comfort of your own home, over the telephone, cup of tea in hand, just having a conversation. You
it is, you just talk us through it, don't you? It's so easy.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a time that's right for you as well. We'll arrange that with you at a time that is best for you. And like I say, it's just a conversation. It's not scary. We might have a little bit of fun as well. Who knows?
A lot of the 5-star reviews actually.
Well, that's the surprising thing because I think people think that it's all going to be that. But no, we're talking about your family. What do you? You're just putting a plan in place. It's not. It's not actually morbid.
Talking about the family.
Well,
and the children.
And we love hearing about it. I think that's why whilst our job is the same, if you like, is we need to get this family a will. Well, we're learning about the families all the time.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why that relationship, albeit it might only be 45 minutes an hour.
Yeah, but that moment you become friends.
100%. And every single client is important. We want to make sure that it's right for you. So I think that is what makes it special for both sides.
That really shows in all the reviews.
Definitely.
Remember on Trustpilot, over 5,700 reviews. We've shared some with you. I think we're going to share more reviews with you right now. If you do want to get in touch, do it now. Start the ball rolling. This next review is from Julie, I believe. This is what Julie had to say. Very professional. We really didn't have a clue about doing a will and how to go about it, but Simpler Law were great right from the start of the procedure and throughout. Our consultant explained everything in ways that we understood, which put our minds at ease. We'd highly recommend using Simpler Law, a truly professional company and first-class service. That's great, isn't it? Thank you, Julie.
And it's so true. We dealt with Simpler Law before they came to us here on ShopOnTV for my mum's lasting power of attorney, and things like this really do scare me. I've got no knowledge. I went to dance college. I've got no knowledge at all in anything
You can step ball
technical.
change.
Absolutely, if I could dance, it'd be fine. But so those things do frighten me because I feel like I'm foolish, I'm silly. I don't have
And I
have
think
a
a lot
clue.
of people think like that because it's a legal thing.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
you don't need to know anything. It is a sit-down conversation, and they talk to you and really get that information out of you and then advise you what the best thing. You've got an idea for a will, especially. You know exactly really who you want to have certain things and who you don't want to have certain things. And if you don't write that will down, sadly, it just won't happen. Because there is a will, if you haven't written one, and it is the government will, which will turn your stomach. And I don't know what happens when you're gone. I hope that you look down and, you know, watch over us. But you will be kicking yourself when you see family upset, and when you see somebody that you really perhaps haven't seen for 20 odd years, and then they get part of your estate, or they get, you know,
What
your
you didn't
wife's
want them to have.
ring that you've been hanging on to that really you wanted to go to somebody else.
I think one of the things we should cover again just before we move on to lasting power of attorneys is the templates that you can buy, because people will buy a template Ian doesn't like and write their own.
Well, yeah, and think you've done a will. So I've done a will.
I think the reason I sound selfish to say I'm frustrated is someone who buys a template knows they need a will
Yeah.
and they know what they want to do,
Right.
but then they try and do it themselves. And you just mentioned you went to dance school and so you felt foolish doing something legal. No one wants to see me dance.
Fair enough.
But I can definitely give you some really sound estate planning advice that's
Great.
insured.
Yeah.
So you would come to me, more likely Charlotte, and rather than having a template that sort of says who would you like your executors to be and doesn't really fully explain what the role of an executor is, they go, well, I think we want that to be each other. Are there any cash gifts? Well, is that a first death cash gift or a second death cash gift? I don't understand. I don't understand what that is. What do you want to happen with the rest of it? And then you've got to make sure that it's signed, dated and witnessed correctly, which sounds quite easy, but you'll be amazed how easy it is to not get that done or get it wrong. And if there's anything wrong in that document, or there's something you haven't known about, I mean, we find out all kinds of weird and wonderful things about how people own the properties. They might do things where they write something down in lay terms, which actually means that it's going to fail in legal terms. Our documents are in a lot of plain English, but we explain all of it to you. But there are certain terms that are used because it's recognised by the courts and removes ambiguity because it's professionally done. But we explain all of that to you. So a template is not going to give you any advice. And if you make a mess of it, the only person to blame is the person that did it. Unfortunately, that's you. If we make a mess of it, you and your family are insured for up to £5 million. So if we did something wrong that created a loss, we're insured for up to £5 million. We've never had an insurance claim because we do it right. We've got over 200,000 clients. We've never had a will fail, touch wood, but it's because this is all we do. So the template thing upsets me because it means that person knew they needed a will, knew what they wanted to do, but then tried to do it themselves. And I know how cheesy this sounds, but it always comes back to, I've just had root canal surgery. At no point ever did I think, I'm going to have a go at this myself.
No.
I actually didn't really know what it was, other than people told me it's horrific. It wasn't as bad as I thought. My dentist happened to be very good. Thankfully, I got a very competent dentist. But I didn't think for one second when I had a problem with my tooth, I'm going to do this myself.
No.
If my car needs a service or fails, I take it to the garage.
Yeah.
You know, I will turn to a professional where I'm not a professional. And again, back to the assumption thing and people thinking that you can do this. Yes, you can write a will, but you're going to have a ceiling to your knowledge. And
will it be right?
Can you guarantee it's right? We'll guarantee it's right.
Yeah.
And you've still got to pay for this template.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
It doesn't come free. So, and the cost of these templates aren't cheap neither. Whereas what you get for us, honestly, is value for money.
Expert advice for those kind of prices.
We'll take the responsibility and liability, and we'll tell you things that a template won't.
Yeah.
And will you tell us again, because you briefly mentioned it, that couple and the gentleman died and he'd done a template, but the money wasn't going to go to his wife because he'd written it wrong.
It was pretty obvious looking at the wills that he'd done, which were truthfully reasonably well written with regards to being legible, but he'd not understood that cash gifts can be paid either when the first one of a couple dies or the second one of a couple dies, and quite often it makes sense for cash gifts to be paid after you've both passed away, especially if there isn't a lot of cash between you in the first place, because, you know, if Mr. passes away and all the cash goes somewhere else, his wife's then got to live the rest of her life when the cash has already gone out of the estate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that was a situation here where actually the estate was valuable, but it was in bricks and mortar. It was the house and not a lot of cash. And he owned the house outright, and he wanted everything to go to his wife, and it was pretty obvious that he then wanted £20,000 to go to each of his grandchildren, and it was pretty obvious because it was written in both wills that he wanted that to happen after they were both dead, and he almost tried to write that in there. But the way the will was written, those cash gifts became payable, if you like, on his death, which would mean the only way to get that money to the now 8 grandchildren, there were 3 at the time he wrote the will and ended up dead. That 160,000 would mean the house needed to be sold to meet the cash. So all of a sudden his intentions, which were quite clear looking inward, have failed because he used a template that was wrong, and it created more problems, and again, just didn't need to be there.
No.
If he'd used a professional company, if he'd used someone like us, I can say this without any arrogance, if he'd used a professional company, that would have been done right. And his intentions
because you would have
followed through.
explained how it needs to be done, because you're
It's what we do every day.
That's it, yeah.
It's just having that conversation.
Yeah.
It's just picking up the phone.
It's just getting
making
started,
that first
isn't
step,
it? That's the great thing. It's not just wills that Simple Law offer. As we said, we've got lasting power of attorney to talk about as well before the end of the show. But do get in touch. That is the thing that we will keep saying. Get in touch
Everybody
and start.
needs a will, even if you're just one single person. Otherwise, sadly, what you've worked for all your life doesn't go where you want. Even if you want it to go to charity, don't let it go back to government. Whatever you do, make sure what you've worked so hard for goes to who you want it to go for, and not to who you didn't ever want it to go to. You can get in touch either on the website, simplelaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. The phone lines, they're still there waiting for your calls, and my goodness, I know they've had a busy night tonight. 0333 600 2600. The team are there to talk to them, have a quick chat with them. All you're doing is saying, I want to secure those deals, and they'll get back in touch with you later tomorrow to sort out the right time to really sit down and talk about it, so you don't need any information tonight at all. But the easiest way, and I love to text, it's so easy, you can't make any mistakes. Like I can say a lot of mistakes, but when you text, well, I'm not a good speller, but I can spell will. So will to 66777. Sometimes we just don't want to talk to anyone. Sometimes we're a bit shy, aren't we? Even the job that we do, sometimes they're like, you call? No, I don't want to. You call. So just text Will.
And the team will get back to you later today. It won't be first thing in the morning. You don't have to worry. It'll be later on in the day. Just text the word Will to 66777, as we said. If you want to go through our website, you can do that as well. ShopOnTV.co.uk. You'll see there's a Simpler Law logo there. Just click on there, scroll on down, and you'll see as you scroll down, you just fill in those details. It's really simple, really straightforward.
And remember those prices that we've got. We think possibly this will be the last chance we get these prices, because sadly everything is going up, isn't it, in price. So whilst we have got these deals, please do grab them. And of course you've got the details on your screen at the minute for the will and the lasting power of attorney, but you can do the will individually. That's down to £89, 4 payments of £22.25. Lasting power of attorney, you can do that by itself as well. Should be £325. We've got some really amazing savings, £179, and that's 4 payments of £44.75. or the details we saw doing the two together?
Yeah, the combination's the best value if you go for a will and an LPA. Should be 505, it's down to 249, and on those 4 payments, 62.25.
You'd think it'd be really expensive, wouldn't you?
For what you get there, the value for
all that knowledge, but actually it's so affordable. And the first 250 clients will get that fabulous book, which if we have time, we'll talk you through it. But it allows you to write down all the information that all your family should know just in one book. It's fantastic. But before the end of the night, we're just going to go back to lasting power of attorney, because I think lots of people, unless you've been in a horrible situation or heard of a horrible situation, don't know we know what a will is, but perhaps haven't even heard of lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. A will is inevitable, isn't it? It's something you're always going to have to use.
Yeah.
Power of attorney, hopefully you never have to, but it's something, if you put in place, is there should it ever be needed. So your powers of attorney are something that covers you from now until you pass away. So if you lose your capacity for any reason, whether it be ill health, dementia is quite a big one, it could be a freak accident, anything where you can't make your own choice, it's where you are nominating who you trust to make that choice for you. So again, it's about having that control of putting that document in place. So you are saying, I trust this person to essentially become you in that scenario.
Right.
They have the power to go to your bank, to discuss where you're living. We'll probably go into those in more detail, but they'll have that power to do that for you while you're in a vulnerable state and not able to do that for yourselves. So these are really, really, really powerful documents, because if you don't have these, no one can do that for you.
Yeah.
Now, there are two, aren't they? So should we start with the financial one first of all? Because I think that's probably what we think about first of all.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So property and financial affairs is, again, nominating who you trust, whether that be a friend or family member. It can be more than one person.
Right.
But those people can essentially access your bank account, so they can pay your bills, they can claim pensions, claim benefits.
To keep your house going, keep you going, get you money for food. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything from a financial point of view, they can step into your shoes and they can manage for you. The other document is health and welfare.
Right.
So financial one, I think people can relate to a lot more because it's practical.
I love how you describe that. Yeah, it's the practicality.
Yeah.
You
but
need
then
the money, you need to be able to pay bills. These things keep happening. Pensions will need to be paid out.
But this is so much more personal, isn't it?
It's so much more personal, but it's still just as important because, again, this is your loved ones having the choice that you're giving them, that they will want to have as well, to be able to make those decisions. So where you're living, if they want you to live at home with them, they can make that choice to care for you. If they need to discuss your medication, down to things as trivial as what you're eating, what you're wearing. We've mentioned already being a vegetarian.
Yeah. To
If
you,
that's
it's
important
not
to you,
trivial, is it?
absolutely,
No, but if you spent your whole life and that's something that you feel strongly about, only your loved ones are going to know that. And again, as you said earlier, it's not to put the care system down. They're there to care for you, but it's your loved ones that know you better than anybody.
Of course.
So why not give them that power to look after you? Because if you ask anybody, that's what they're going to want to happen.
And we presume, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about wills, but lots of misconceptions about powers of attorney.
Yeah.
You presume, if I'm my mum's daughter, I really look after mum and help mum, so I would just presume I would be able to do all these things if she fell really poorly and couldn't do them herself. But that's not what happens, is it?
No, it's the assumption again, unfortunately. Again, just through the lack of knowledge, I think.
Well,
so what would happen then?
It's what Ian says, I think, is when you wouldn't be able to do it when you're well, never mind.
No, it's so true, yeah.
I think that's the one thing we encourage clients thinking about. You have to do it where you're not. We don't mean to be patronising, but if you think about it logically, just for a second, can you walk into your mum's bank now, or can you walk into your husband's bank, or your wife's bank, or your partner's bank, or deal with any institution where you're not the account holder, whilst they have capacity? And of course, the answer is no. Are you the account holder? No. So unless you're going to commit fraud, that's the honest answer here. Unless you're going to commit fraud and pretend to be someone, my name's Betty. I obviously wouldn't make a good fraudster.
I don't think so.
I think I would fail at the first hurdle. But unless you're prepared to commit fraud and pretend to be someone else, you're not going to get past those checks whilst they have capacity.
Yeah.
Once they've lost capacity, they're now genuinely vulnerable people who need more protection because they can't protect themselves because they don't have mental capacity. So now you've got to ask yourself the same question. Why do you now think it's suddenly got easier to access something that you couldn't access when they had capacity? And of course the answer is no, actually, if anything, it's got harder. But to be fair, it was already impossible.
Yeah.
So this assumption I come back to, I think it's more a hope. Well, or we've been together 30 odd years, or we're married, so I'm sure everything will be okay. Only to find that if life throws you that curveball, when you should be helping and caring for your loved one, you find yourself embroiled in legal proceedings and having to go through.
And that's what you have to do, isn't it? If you haven't
if you don't
got a
have
lasting
an
power of
LPA,
attorney, what does happen? What do you have to do?
The only way that you can then make decisions for your loved one is to apply for something called a deputyship order through something called a court of protection. Incredibly expensive, incredibly lengthy time, incredibly difficult, truthfully, and it's awful because you're detracted from looking after your loved one. So the application fees and court fees, well, you see them there on the screen, that if you add all that together, and the supervision fee is an ongoing fee, that's over £1,300.
And you've got to find that, because
and that's if you do it yourself.
Right.
So without any knowledge, again, trying to deal with something
But
like
you'll
that.
probably need
Having
help.
to deal with the courts, yeah, and most people inevitably, some people try and start themselves and get 3 or 4 months in, realise that it's horrific and they've applications being rejected by the court because something isn't right. So then they end up turning to a professional. The professional, unfortunately, because of their professional responsibility, have to discount the last 4 months, so they start again. It's just awful.
And all whilst your loved one is poorly, and all you want to do is look after them. And you say it can take a long time.
9 to 12 months at the moment. That's because of delays at the court. So
it could be too late, really.
And unfortunately, quite often that's the sad outcome. The flip side of that is if your loved one had a lasting power of attorney in place, it does need to be registered with something called the Office of the Public Guardian. They can charge a registration fee which ranges from £82. There's remissions that mean it's £41, or it can even be free. But people would much rather pay £82 to the Office of Public Guardian than £5,000 to the Court of Protection and professional fees. But that document does need to be registered with the Office of Public Guardian, but then the people that you chose whilst you had capacity to act as your attorneys can then act.
Yeah.
So there's no additional costs, there's no waiting at the court for 12 months for them to decide whether you're worthy or not. And you yourself, if you're the person that is incapacitated, you know that the people who are acting on behalf are the people you chose.
Yeah, of course.
Because you've got no way of knowing who's going to turn up at court if you did lose capacity. It might be someone that you don't want involved with your finances or anything to do with your well-being. So again, this is back to control. If you make a lasting power of attorney, you've controlled who's going to be your attorneys. If you make a will, you've controlled what's going to happen when you're no longer here. If you do neither a will, neither a lasting power of attorney, you don't control anything.
No.
That's the bottom line.
And it is completely out of your hands, and it gets all handed over to the government.
And to be really clear, there are no grey areas in any of this.
No.
There's no, well, it's okay because I've told my son, or Bob down the pub told me something, so I think it'll be okay. I think we're common law husband and wife. All these things that you think or hope are true, sadly aren't. It's really simple. If you pass away, you've either passed away with your own will, that hopefully you've made through a professional like us, or you've passed away without your will, which means you will get the government will. And it doesn't matter what you've said to people or what you believed, your estate will be...
No matter what your family knows you want, it's not going to happen.
Even if everyone's fully aware of what you want to happen, if you've not made your own will that says that, you will get the government will, which doesn't care about you. And that's not criticism of it, it's a default position, so it's not personal. Likewise, the flip side with lasting power of attorney, whilst you're alive, if you lose capacity and you haven't named your attorneys in that document, then you don't control who even turns up to the Court of Protection. And unfortunately, you've made that situation worse. I'll say one last thing, because I know we're wrapping up now, and I'm conscious I'm waffling, which I'm really good at. But as cheesy as this sounds, I firmly believe this, that there's lots of silly things I've done all my life. I try not to waste time on regret, because it's pointless.
Yeah.
But, you know, did I really have a mullet? looking like this? Excuse me. Do I regret the mullet? A little bit. Do I regret that dodgy suit that I bought that was purple? Yes. But no one ever regrets making a will, and no one ever regrets having a lasting power of attorney in place, because there's nothing to regret.
And we've
It is like your last gift,
We've
isn't it,
seen
to
that
your
with
loved
those
ones.
reviews that we've talked about, and that we've shown you and shared with you, how important it is to people, and how the service and how everyone in the call centre, the team, all get mentions, because they make a difference.
I think we put things off like wills, lasting powers of attorney, because we think it's going to be complicated, we think it's going to be expensive. You're seeing tonight, it really truly isn't expensive. But you're also hearing it's not complicated, because Simpler Law do all the hard work. You just simply sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And hand on heart, it is as easy as that. However complicated you think your life is.
You can say it because we've been through the process, haven't we? We were like lucky enough to come across Simpler Law before we even worked with them, and you went through it with your mum, and it was such a...
They virtually hold your hand,
Yeah,
and
great
honestly,
experience.
I'm terrified of anything, you know, like to do with law, or you know, I'm not. I don't think I'm particularly clever. You know, my talent was in my feet. I was a dancer and a singer, and you know, I panic about things like that. You know, if a policeman's behind me in a police car, I think I've done something wrong. You know, it's me, even though I drive so carefully, and I know it won't be me. But the great thing is, what you're doing is you don't have to worry about any. You don't need to know anything apart from what you want to happen to your hard work.
Yeah,
what you
everything you've
possess.
worked for. And it's not just for you, it's for your family's peace of mind as well. Because when you've gone, everything's in place. Or even when you're alive, if you lose capacity, it's for your peace of mind. And again, for your family, because they know what your wishes are.
It's selfless.
It really is. Let's remind you of the offers,
Completely.
because we are running out of time. You can still get in touch. We'll run you through that in just a moment. But the will, first of all, if you want to get a will in place, now is the time.
There's no reason not to, is there? £180 is what it should be. I think that's a great price. I thought it'd be so much more than that. But actually tonight, and these prices we might not see again. We think them, sadly, prices will have to go up slightly. But £89 is your price, which will split over 4 payments, monthly payments of £22.25. And I bet that's less than you spend on coffee. I was saying in a month, but probably in a week.
Oh, definitely for me. If you want to go for the lasting power of attorney, remember there are 2 different types. You've got the financial or you've got the health. If you want to go for that, it's reduced down from 325 to 179 on those exclusive prices, and 4 interest-free payments will be offered to you at 44.75 on your first of 4 payments if you want to go for the LPA.
But perhaps you've thought, well, actually, I may as well just get it all sorted. I'll do the will and the lasting power of attorney. You've got a better than half price deal there. Should be £505. £249 is your price. And again, you split that interest free to £62.25 over those 4 payments. The first 250 clients will get that fabulous book, What My Family Should Know. And it's where you fill in all your details. But remember, so easy to get in contact now. Take a photo of that page now, and then take a photo of this next page, because though we will be leaving you in a moment, please get in contact and secure the deals. You need to secure these deals tonight. Go to the website simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV.
You can use the call centre. The team will still be there for a couple more minutes. 0333 600 2600, or you can go straight to our website, ShopOnTV.co.uk. Scroll down, you've got all the offers there, and then you just need a few contact details.
And it does tell you about texting. Honestly, if you're off to bed and you don't want to talk to anybody, I'm even nervous to use the phone at times. Honestly, just text Will to 66777. Go to bed with that peace of mind. Perhaps going to get a better night's sleep, because you've actually taken that first step to something you've been putting off for months. And you know, if you don't do it now, it'll be Christmas next, then it'll be spring, and then hopefully we'll have a summer. Where did the summer go? You know, and then suddenly another year's gone, and it might be too late. We just don't know what's around the corner.
And that's what you'd say, isn't it? And you'd say the biggest thing is just getting in touch.
Taking the initiative. The hardest thing of the whole process is that first phone call, is, you know, giving us the opportunity to help you. Our job is really simple, is to put you in a place where you can make a fully informed decision about what your estate planning looks like, the key word being your estate planning. And our job is to make sure you fully understand everything. And we put you in that position so that you can make that decision. At the end of it, you get the document that's right for you. And more importantly, that means you get rid of the government will.
Yeah.
If we've not put you in a position to make a fully informed decision, we've failed you. We don't fail our clients, but we can only help you. Excuse me, we can only help you if you text, if you phone. You will get someone in the client care team right now. They're still there. But as you both rightly said, if you text the word will to 66777, we will call you back. please don't go to bed and don't do it, because tomorrow's another day and
That's
it'll all
it.
be in the rearview mirror again.
Yeah.
And life
Everything will move on.
forward.
Life's so complicated, isn't it? And time goes so quickly. Taking that first step today will be that first lift off your shoulders. And when you've done your will or your lasting power of attorney, you won't believe what a relief it is. And then you just forget about it. It's all sorted, and you won't have to think about wishing you'd done something when if something does happen, and I don't know what happens if you're looking down thinking, why, if I'd have just written that will, all this upset wouldn't have
A
happened.
lot of people can't comprehend just how amazing this, what appears a small thing, can actually be. It's
So
the
powerful.
last thing that you do on
Your
planet
last
Earth
gift
is.
to your loved ones.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. But the power in that will, certainly for some families, is huge, because you took the time out to plan, which meant that all those problems that were going to be there, they've all gone.
Yeah.
And everything's done the way you wanted it.
Don't have the government will. Whatever you do, do not do it. And please get in touch and make sure you don't miss out. Huge thank you to you
Thank you,
both.
guys.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you.
You
And
too.
we will see you tomorrow. See you later.
See you later.